All right, looks like we've got a handful of people on. All right, I think we can go ahead, John.
Okay. 6 o'clock, we'll call our meeting to order. The first thing tonight is a proposed budget public hearing. We'll call that to order. This is relation to the 2021-2022 budget. And at this budget hearing, any resident or taxpayer may present objections to or arguments in favor of any part of the proposed budget. The proposed budget is based on state requirements for allowable growth and includes anticipated expenditures for all school funds. So do we have anybody that has any comments or questions for the 2021-2022 budget?
If anyone has any comments about the budget, can you use the hand raise icon and we can call on you to talk about that? Nope, I don't see anything, John.
I think that you should probably go over those numbers.
Oh. I'm gonna look it down here.
In your notes.
Yep, I'm scrolling down there.
Or I can.
No, I'm just trying to find it. Here we go. Okay, so just so the public's aware, in the budget, we're going to ask the board to approve. There's $195,000 in the management fund, $3,726,000 to be spent on instruction, $2,980,000 in support services, and $205,000 in non-instructional programs, which that's the nutrition fund, and $1,027,844 in other expenditures, which includes new bond payments and equals a tax rate that is equal to last year's tax rate of $17.48 per thousand.
Okay, based on that information, does the public have any comments on any of those numbers or questions that were presented?
No, I don't see any hand raising.
Okay, hearing no public comments on the proposed budget, we have a motion to adjourn that public hearing. Do we have a second? All in favor, aye. Opposed, same sign. Budget hearing is adjourned. Now we turn around and we have another public hearing in relation to the Children Internet Protection Act. And that is just to go over our current board policy in relation to children internet protection. It's I think the same thing we've had in our board policy manual, but we just need to bring it in front of the public to let them know what it is.
So this is no change at all in our policies. This is just our internet use policy. And it's in our technology handbook. And we just, as part of the E-rate program that schools are involved in, we just have to have a record every few years in our minutes that we have an acceptable use policy. And so this public hearing will act as that record. So we'll be able to submit this date and time as our public hearing. Does anybody have any questions about our current internet use policy or our technology handbook?
Michael, this usually is part of the registration packet too?
Yep.
For when kids have computers and computer usage?
Yep, parents will sign this and kids will sign it when you get your school or your computers at the beginning of school. I don't see
Do we
any.
have any questions from the public on that policy?
I don't see anything.
Hearing no questions from the public, do we have a motion to adjourn the hearing on the Internet Protection Act policy?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor, aye. Opposed, same sign. Public hearing's adjourned. We will now move into our regular board meeting. We'll call that meeting to order. Do we have any additions or corrections to the agenda for tonight's meeting?
Nope.
Okay, do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor, aye. Opposed, same sign. Agenda's approved. We move into our consent items. Does any board member have any questions or comments on any of those?
My only question is the ones for Johnson Control and, electrical, all those that were all together. And those have nothing, I see they don't come out of the fund, nothing to do with the new building or nothing, no.
Existing.
Yeah. On it.
Yeah.
Maybe any other questions or comments on consent items? Hearing done, do we have a motion to approve the consent items as presented?
So moved.
We have a motion, do we have a second? All in favor, aye. Opposed, same sign. Consent items are approved. Move into correspondence.
And we do have some correspondence. I had a letter from a parent, and she wanted to speak at public forum, but she wasn't going to be able to be home tonight. So she sent me a letter, so I just am going to read that really quickly for you. And I've already sent this to the board, but I wanted to be able to make sure that it was read aloud so people could hear it. Baxter School Board, hello. First off, thank you for your time. Time is valuable, and I appreciate you taking the time to listen to a parent's concern. I want to hit the point of that my private healthcare decisions are yours and they are yours and not anybody else's business. That goes for our children too. As we, the parents and guardians, are in charge of our children's healthcare and make decisions for them, we decide what they eat, how they learn, what activities they participate in, and who their daycare provider is. When they go to bed, when they need to see a doctor, etc. So too, we decide if they wear a mask. To state again, healthcare is a private and no one else's business, including the school. I believe the school is overstepping its boundaries and requiring students to cover their breathing holes in which their brains are still developing. Teachers are able to choose whether they are vaccinated. Parents of students should be able to make choices themselves, also without the threat of being able to participate with everyone else unless they wear a mask if they haven't been vaccinated. You are dictating what healthy children can do because of fear. I've seen the emotional damage being done to students with the mask requirement. I've had public school kids ask my homeschool daughter, aren't you afraid you're going to die because she doesn't wear a mask? You're literally scaring kids to death. Division is also being created as to those who wear a mask and those who don't. It becomes tied to political and social beliefs instead of ultimately being one's own private healthcare decisions. I've heard a grade school teacher give a description of what masks look like throughout the day. One word, gross. They're wet with saliva and nasal discharge falling off faces, stepped on and put back on, and the kids also trade masks. I'm sure you're aware that kids who get sent home to quarantine are not staying home. They are going to the salon, hanging out with friends in other towns, etc. Let's drop the quarantine requirement as it doesn't get followed properly. Teachers aren't required to quarantine due to staffing, and just get kids out of their normal routine. It just gets kids out of their normal routine, sorry. You can encourage but not require face coverings. I would rather you promote a healthy lifestyle with hand washing and exercise than cover up my child's smile. Other Iowa schools have already unmasked, and there is not a mask mandate for the state. There is evidence that children rarely transmit the virus. There's also scientific evidence that masks do not work. Quite the hypocrisy. The school has advertised pack the gym night for basketball, but limit one kid to a table in situations at school. It's quite confusing. You encourage peer pressure when it comes to the mask and wearing it properly. It's been hard. I won't post your picture if you don't have your mask on right. Get your classmates to wear their mask correctly. Peer pressure and bullying is bullying, and I don't appreciate the bullying coming from the classmates, teachers, and administration. Please consider having parents sign a form stating we are checking our child's temperature and they are not showing symptoms before we send them to school so they can attend without masks. This is how rec ball and activities are being done. We are adults. We can take responsibility for our own children's health care. Parents are not invading our teachers and administrators' healthcare privacy. We don't know what viruses you are carrying, where you've been on the weekends, etc. I don't think you would appreciate parents getting involved in your health care, so please stay out of our family's health care. When fear guides decision making rather than science and compassion, we get discrimination. Parents can decide their children's health care and whether they wear a mask or not, because ultimately they are the ones that know and love their children most. Respectfully, Carrie Frazier. Mother to 1 attending Baxter High School and 6 homeschooled and may attend Baxter in the future.
Thank you for providing that. We'll move on the agenda to the Baxter Early Learning Center report. We have their March board meeting minutes. Anybody have any comments on those? We're continuing to move ahead with the 4th grade preschool.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Any other comments on those? Okay, we'll move on to our next item on the agenda is our public forum. And I just want to kind of go over our policy. We've talked about this at other meetings, but we ask that people that speak do not exceed 3 minutes. And the board members will listen to what the public has to say. We can't act on it at this time or field questions. Sometimes an item will come up in our agenda later on where we will discuss it and sometimes make a motion or move on that. So just want to remember to try to keep it within 3 minutes. So we'll open it up and Dr. Clapper will recognize people and they can speak.
So if anyone wants to speak, feel free to raise your hand and I'll unmute you. Okay, we have Mrs. Brown. Unmute. Let's see it. Anna, it's saying ask to unmute. Can you unmute yourself? Anna, we can't hear you. Hold on.
Okay, is that good now? Did that work now?
Yep.
All right, can you hear me?
Yep.
All right, thank you so much. I appreciate this. So first, my name is Anna Brown, and I'd like to speak from both my perspective as a high school teacher and also from my perspective as a parent of a high school student that's open enrolled to the Baxter High School. First, I just wanted to thank you as a school board for all the work that you've done this year. You know, just like teachers, we didn't sign up for this year when we started our careers. And I know that when you guys ran for your positions on the school board, you didn't have these decisions in mind. And so I truly appreciate all the hard work that you've done in making these difficult decisions. I know that you can't always make everybody happy, and so you just have to do what seems like the right thing to do. But I would say that the choices that you've made this year have really made a difference. The choice to require masks, the choice to go hybrid and do virtual learning when that was appropriate, that helped us a lot. The choice to offer vaccine clinic, all these decisions have made this year, the best that it can be for actually facilitating some learning. So I just wanted to speak actually in support of maintaining the mask mandate for the remainder of the year. I appreciated the analogy of a marathon. This year has been a marathon for many reasons. And I truly believe that there are several reasons why we should continue to keep that mask mandate in place. First, we teach our children about showing respect. And the mask is truly a sign of respect. Why do I ask students to follow other board policies? Why do I ask them to take off their hat when they enter the room or not eat in the classroom? It's about respect. It's because we are a community and we value other people. And my mask isn't just for me, it's for the other students in the room. So I would argue against that point that health is a personal decision, because when we're in the same room together, the health of one student affects everybody. It's all of our health. And so if I'm making healthy choices and a student is making healthy choices, yes, I feel comfortable. But we need to respect each other and maintain that community. So I would also say that even as a vaccinated teacher, I still want to model the behavior that I expect from my students. So I want you to know that most students have not had a problem wearing these masks all year, and neither have the teachers. And I truly don't mind modeling the behavior that I expect from students. I truly believe that a healthy class is a learning class. And so, we prioritize, teaching our students. There's nothing that I want to do more than have a full class of kids engaged in learning. And I truly believe that having that health as that first priority allows me to be an effective teacher, because I know that the kids' needs are being met, their health and their safety is being met. And I would just argue that we need to stay the course. Any teacher will tell you that it's easier to start with the strict expectations and then let them go. And I just really feel like this mask mandate, yes, we're all ready to have a mask burning party. I'll be there at that bonfire. But once we let it go, we're not getting it back. And so kids will continue to follow that expectation as long as it's the expectation. But once we let it go, we have to really make sure that it's the right time to let it go. And I feel like most people in our community right now, it's become more of a social norm to actually wear the mask. It doesn't feel weird anymore. We can still communicate just fine. There's actually more of an awkwardness when people are not wearing a mask. And so I just really hope that you'll continue to support that for the rest of the year so that we can finish really strong. I know that you're making a lot of tough decisions, but I just truly hope that you continue to prioritize health. So thank you so much for all that you guys do.
Thank you, Mrs. Brown.
Thank you. Do we have anybody else for public forum?
Okay, we have Nikki Whitaker. Can you unmute?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yep, sure
Yes.
can.
All right. Thanks for taking my comments. I wanted to start by saying thank you for everyone for their hard work maneuvering through these waters, but I think Anna Brown said it best, so I'll save my time. But yes, I do understand it's difficult when the decisions you are making are not going to please a lot of people, or definitely not everyone, but maybe not even half the people. But as we know, we must make those decisions that we feel is best and not cater to what is easy or politically correct during this time. And right now our community, I believe, is strong. That's why we love Baxter. And we're proud of our school, but I don't believe we should be proud when we drive by our elementary school and our kids are outside in masks playing in the fresh air. I don't think we should be proud of that, and that's not what needs to continue. They're very limited to their recess and their free play and their fresh air, and it is disturbing when you drive by and see them in their masks. It's disturbing also to hear the kids talking about sneaking breathing breaks from their mask when they're outside, so their teachers don't see them and yell at them to put their mask back on properly. So they go somewhere further away, pull it down, and then they put it on their way back in when the teachers aren't looking. There's also, I've heard of breathing breaks inside when teachers look away or turn away and kids pretend like they have to go to the bathroom or drink their water so they can pull their mask down and breathe. So I understand that kids are resilient and they're not really complaining. They're doing what they're supposed to do, but that doesn't mean they're learning appropriately or they're liking this situation and it's their norm. It's really tough for me to understand a lot of this and what's going on, because I keep hearing the phrase, we truly want to keep people safe. And I understand that's what you all are saying with your mask policy, to keep people safe. But I don't understand how that we're keeping people safe when our community members and other school officials gathered just 4 days ago, completely unmasked inside to have a party for hours and hours. And don't get me wrong, I am not a mask shamer, because if I didn't have predisposed for other things, I would have been there with you and I would have been happily having a great time for that fundraiser for our school, not wearing my mask as well. However, the same people that are sitting here pushing a policy for masks on my elementary school kids, that they can't be outside without their boogery, sweaty, wet mask on their face all day and outside, are the same people that were inside partying it up and having a great time completely unmasked. And I just think that unless we want to believe that masks only work in schools, then I think we have some answers that we need to get to the rest of the community and to these parents. And we also know that kids are not the super spreaders of this virus. So why are the adults not having to wear it? We see you out in the community, take your mask off when you walk in. And see who's there, to see if there are like-minded people there. So if we all are able to come to the conclusion that we are smart, we all demand our own health, we all love our children and do what's best for our children, why are we not allowed to make that decision for our children? Because we're allowed to make other decisions. If constitutional cases, as you all know, I'm a former prosecutor and judge, and if constitutional cases didn't take so long for lawsuits, I would probably file one, because I believe you're violating our constitutional rights to parent our children and do and have their medical health needs as our decision and not yours. This is feeling more like a political play to kind of look like what's politically correct, to look like we care, rather than truly taking the path that's really in the best interest of our kids. Because if our employers of our school district and members of our community think it's safe to gather inside and unmasked, then I do think that you need to take the stance that our children can play outside unmasked at the minimum. I do take issue with the hypocrisy, and I think that we all need to demand a logical explanation how that's okay. And if there isn't one, then at the very minimum, I'm asking that what needs to be done is that we need to have policy changes that allow our children to enjoy the scheduled mask breaks that were supposed to be numerously scheduled throughout the day at the beginning of this school year, which are not happening. We need at minimum to have those mask breaks and to be allowed to go outside without masks to enjoy free play and fresh air. At the beginning of the year, they didn't wear masks outside, and the numbers were quite higher than what they are now. We're at low numbers. The teachers are vaccinated, the ones that wanted to get vaccinated. If people would just let as parents, we should be controlling our children's medical situation and our medical decisions. If I want my child to be masked, changing your policy does not change the fact that I can do that for my child. But changing your policy does then give it the right for all parents to be able to make the decisions for their children, not just the ones that agree with what's politically correct right now. So there are several other things I'd like to say. If you're limiting people to 3 minutes, then obviously I can't say them. But one thing I do also want to say is that the video that came out last night not only was extremely disappointing, it was inaccurate. It is not against there is no law that says we need to mask our children. That's your policy. And I think it's a cop-out to try to act like your hands are tied in this situation. You do have to follow the public health guidelines. However, those were also a little bit misrepresented, and I don't think that was done on purpose, so I'm not saying that. But the fact of what people being out of school for a longer period of time, I understand that concern, but I think at least elementary school, those children, there are greater concerns there that we need to deal with right now versus just worrying about the time. We're talking learning. We're talking breathing in a crappy, dirty, wet mask. We're talking what's good for immunity. We all know it. I exercise outside to breathe in fresh air. That's good for immunity. And that should be, we should at least give our kids that common courtesy to be able to do that for them. And that's why we're fighting for this. I really strongly encourage the people on the board, the superintendent, to really consider changing this policy. Now is a great time to correct that. There's no reason to continue with a status quo in this situation when we can't justify why. If we had kids playing outside with no masks in August, in September, and October, and the numbers were quite higher, why are we still doing it now when the numbers are at 4%, if that's what we're really looking at it? Let's keep the children's best interests. Let's stand up and show these kids that we care and dish the political correctness.
Okay, thank you, Mrs.
Thank you.
Whitaker.
Yep, thanks.
Okay, do we have any other people to speak in the public forum?
Let's see. Yep, we've got one more here, a couple more. Christy, you can go ahead and unmute.
Ask her to share her name.
Hello, good evening. I think maybe, well, I'll introduce myself again. My name is Christy Wiebeck, and I am also a PhD, so we'll just make sure that we're on equal playing field. I came on last session to share my concerns as a parent about my son's well-being and mental health, and this time I'd like to take a different approach with you. One where I tried to put myself over the last few months in your shoes and think about the concerns that maybe you had as a school board. And those three concerns that I'd like to share with you to start with are the risk of COVID to our children, the second is the safety to our children, and the third is the liability to the school. So first, I'd like to ask you, do you know the #1 cause of death among children? Maybe you're not aware, but the New England Journal of Medicine published an article in December of 18 sharing the data from 2016 that US's leading cause of child deaths is actually vehicle crashes at 20% of children who die in vehicle crashes. Did you know that the deaths caused by COVID of children in the United States is 0.03% of all COVID deaths, which accounts to 0.5% of all of the deaths last year in the United States. And that was published in a Times Magazine article of the CDC data. Now, to give you a perspective of what that actually means, that's 0.1% of congenital abnormality deaths, which is about 5% of the deaths of children. So we're taking extreme measures to protect our kids from something that can happen 0.5% of time. As it is tragic whenever we lose a child's life, these extreme measures that are taking our child's liberty, they're wrong. I have a question for the school board. Do you take the same approach to protecting our kids from the #1 leading cause of death? Are you ensuring that the things that we do every day, traveling to and from school, which we don't even think about as a risky behavior for our kids, that we're minimizing that risk to the extent that we're trying to minimize something as simple as not knowing how we're going to respond to a virus that naturally happens every day in our life? Second, to our safety of our kids. First, I've seen students running around town wearing masks without adult supervision all the way out to Highway F-17 for athletics per the school's policy. Have you ever considered what would happen and the response plan to a student who has an asthma attack or develops hypoxia and passes out while wearing a forced mask on those activities? They fall on the pavement, they go unconscious, and potentially could die. What about those children that the woman prior to me are required to wear masks outside and required to wear masks in PE class, where physical education is the #1 leading decreaser to COVID? And outside, UV light kills the COVID virus. Fresh air and sunlight in our lungs is great for immunity and building strength in our kids. Those are great things. We should be encouraging that kind of behavior. Third, to the school's liability. Think about the previous risk and safety of our kids. And is there little potential to be able to prove causation of COVID directly related to a kid wearing or not wearing a mask in school? The fact is it's nil. But there is direct liability in an instance where the school is forcing my child to wear a mask and there's serious injury or death that may have occurred while participating in a school mandated event with that mask requirement. Second, if risk and safety are your number one concern, I would like to know how you're addressing the number one concern of death for our children. What are the plans to build schoolhouses distributed evenly in a reasonable walking distance of all of our students in our school district so that our children don't have to ride in cars and buses every day to eliminate that risk that's repeatedly incurred day after day, and we don't even give it a second thought. We as humans take these risks every day as a part of life. No one is guaranteed a tomorrow. No one can predict every event. If you want to have that life, you need to eliminate all of those threats. You can stay bubble wrapped in your basement. For those of us who want to live this life that we've been beautifully given and guaranteed in this country, and those guaranteed rights that our great nation proclaims, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that's why we're demanding and speaking up for our kids. As a parent who doesn't have the commitment to this school right now, I'm telling you, I have 2 boys who can bring in $13,000 to this school, or I can choose to bring them elsewhere. I reached out to a neighboring school district to find out their options for open enrollment, and I will be pursuing every option until this school finds a plan and outlines all of the requirements for coming back to school and has a clear plan of staged progression of levels of when we need to act and when we need to decrease, instead of being in this crazy scenario where we don't have anything that we can control. Finally, after watching Dr. Clapper's video shared in the school district email and on Facebook this morning, I believe there needs to be equally public retraction and correction of the inaccuracies and statements of fear-mongering presented. As a district, as the leader of this school, Dr. Clapper, you have the obligation to set the standard of behavior expected by your students. You proceeded in the video to share misinformation as fact. I would like to give you the benefit of the doubt, and perhaps you were misinformed and do not understand the difference between the definition of a law and guidance provided by the state. Perhaps you do not think thoroughly through the consequences of accusing students and their student body and parents of fear-mongering them into believing that they've given this kid COVID before posting your video. I honestly do not know you, and I hope that was not your intent. But posting it publicly as a statement from the school makes me question your integrity and qualifications in your role leading the school. In summary, the superintendent has lost my family's complete trust by spreading misinformation and fear-mongering. Those actions need to be addressed immediately in a public forum. And second, there needs to be divisive action taken by the school's leadership to rebuild trust to this school system. Last, we need a common sense approach to evaluating the risk to our students versus the imposed authoritarian mandates that hinder learning and infringe on our constitutional rights, all while remembering our children's education and serving the community is what you were elected to represent and should be your top priority.
Thank you. Do we have any other people for the public forum?
Let's see, we've got a couple more. We have Michael Ware. Can you unmute, Michael? All right.
Working?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Glad to see everybody tonight. I'd like to make a quick personal example and then offer some considerations, and then I'll duck off. The short version is I've got a little boy, 1st grade. I've got a little girl, 6th grade, and my daughter thrives in the public school environment we have here. She enjoys it. She's been a beneficiary of some really great teachers. I thank you all for that. She enjoys it. And one thing I would offer you, just in the last week or so, she said things that are uncharacteristic of my daughter. She's pretty happy-go-lucky. She's vibrant and bright, not too addicted to drama, although we're heading into the preteen year, so I'm a little worried about that. Anyway, she said that she made the comment about something about masks and she didn't think the teachers cared anymore. and I didn't discuss that with her because I didn't want to give her some sort of indicator that that may accidentally be true, which I'm sure it's not. But that's uncharacteristic of how she speaks and what she says. And so that was very concerning to me. So I'm telling you that just like everybody on this call, the psychological damage from COVID aftermath is real and is manifesting itself in some ways that we probably are hard to chart. Now, my son is in first grade. He doesn't see very well, so we got him glasses. And for a number of years, we didn't know that he had deafness in large part in one ear and just a little bit in another. And so by the time we got him some hearing aids, the language development and some of those language arts were a little lacking. So he's a little bit behind in that category, and learning comes a little tougher to him. So the short version is the schools moved heaven and earth to help accommodate him, and I'm appreciative for that, as is my wife. But when people are wearing masks and they're not able to see one another's faces and the expressions, how they hold their mouth, their jaws, that kind of stuff, it's very hard to learn like that. For example, I mean, if you opened up if you turned the camera over to you, Doc, and I ask you to say A-E-I-O-U, while your smile is great and I'd like to see you do it, I'm not able to see your face. I can't pick those things up. So even if a teacher were able to change their mask, my son isn't the beneficiary of seeing other kids and learning this stuff. And I've got to tell you, it's darn hard. So there are considerations here beyond some of the things that we may think and how early childhood education manifests itself that I believe that we truly need to be cognizant of. So that's a really good example. And the other concern that I have, and I'll try to be very quick, the children in this school, some of them obviously are higher functioning than others because of their age and their intellect, but they all have hypocrisy detectors. They all are hardwired as lie detectors. So when we tell them in school, this is a rule and we're keeping you safe, or these are the auspices under which we offer this rule, I think many of them probably believed that early on, which I believe was true. Unfortunately, now they look around and they see not only is nobody wearing their mask other places, or it's rare, but school, staff, administration, other kids, parents, people posting on Facebook, social media, Snapchat, whatever it may be, they're all seeing that the masks actually don't manifest themselves anywhere but the school. So really what this does to children is it says, well, one standard here, another standard somewhere else. And oh, by the way, the reality that's out there, or the one that's forming in your mind, we're going to ask you to ignore here at school. Ultimately, what I'm asking you to consider are some uncharted impacts and some things that I can't quantify for you. And those will be things like when we tell children long enough, this mask does this thing, or this is why we do it, but they continually see something else. What they end up figuring out is that that may not necessarily be true. And that diminishes the perceived authority of the people who are in the school that are leading as faculty and staff. And ultimately what that leads to is rebellion. When the children figure out that the people in perceived authority haven't necessarily told them the truth, what does that do? It undermines their ability to look up to and follow those people. And I think that that's something that we're going to reflect back on in future years as truly cruelty to our children, because we put them in a really lousy position and we weren't completely honest with them. And that's a big problem. So for the best of our intentions, some of these things are mistakes, and I would wish that we would stop perpetuating the mistakes. So those are my chief concerns. Do you have any questions back for me, Doc?
No, thanks for sharing, Michael.
Thank you.
Okay, do we have anybody else for
Yeah.
public forum?
Got two more. We're gonna go with, it's Darcy. I don't know if it's Darcy Damon. I'm not sure, but Darcy, do you want to unmute?
Yep, can you hear me?
Yep, sure
Yes.
can.
Okay, I'm Darcy Damon. I have 4 children in the Baxter school system. We open enroll. I have children at every level. Currently this year, based on what was decided at the beginning of the year for the school policy with the mask mandate, the only child of mine that chose to attend in person was my freshman. The other 3 are staying at home right now. We do not agree with the mask policy. We don't agree that it is the best learning environment, a whole gamut of things. My angle, I echo what a lot of people have already said in my opinions. What I do want to touch on is making sure that communication is key. I struggled last year at the beginning of the year because I didn't know what was going to be expected. I don't feel like it was clearly communicated. I don't feel like it was very transparent. And that's kind of continued on through the school year. So I guess from my aspect, I'm hoping, I know you can't make a decision today for what's going to happen in the fall, but what I'm asking is that you do make a plan, communicate that plan, be transparent, listen to the community on what they're wanting, and let them know what your plan is, because I have heard comments from several people already that are looking at other options if this is going to continue into the fall. They don't want to subject their kids to wearing masks all the time again. So I know there's several people out there looking at other options, and they need to be notified in a timely manner so they can make decisions for their kids, myself included. And I thank you guys for all the work you guys have done. Just remember, you are elected to represent the community. So if there's a majority of the community, I think that needs to be recognized if they feel one way or the other. And that's my thoughts on it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Darcy.
Anybody else? Public forum?
There's one more. Audrey, do you want to unmute?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay,
Can you hear me?
Yep, sure
Yes.
can.
Okay, great. As a mom of 3 open enrolled students, I was fine with the mask at the beginning of the year when they said that they would have lots of breaks, that they wouldn't have to have them outside. And I know this has already been said, but I feel like it maybe needs to be said again, that we were promised breaks. We were promised that they wouldn't, have to wear them outside at recess. And then we said that they had to wear them all the time. All of a sudden the breaks were gone and they were wearing them at recess. It's now April, numbers are way down, and yet here we are. I feel bad for my kindergartner that this is what she gets to experience. And I know that everybody's doing it and everyone's experiencing it. But if we can have school events where people are gathering without masks, if we can have sports events where people are gathering without masks, I really feel like at minimum, there needs to be mask breaks for the kiddos. They shouldn't have to wear them out at recess. It just really needs to be looked at and looked at quickly. The weather's only getting better. It's only getting nicer. I don't necessarily agree that if we lift some restrictions that we can't get them back. At least you won't have that problem with my children. Because we went from 0 to having to wear masks, I don't guess I necessarily agree that if you take that away, that if you had to go back, they wouldn't do it. Like, I feel like we're not giving the kids enough credit in that aspect. But anyways, that's all I really had to say. I don't want to go over my time, but I appreciate the time to speak. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, and I think our last one is Jennifer Andrag. Jen, I'm going to call on you. Do you want to unmute? Jen?
Hi, thank you. I finally was able to unmute. Yes, this is Jennifer Andrag. I have 2 children open enrolled into Baxter, both in middle school. And I've been wrestling through putting this out there during this discussion, but feel it is important to be understood. I am a strong conservative voting person, and I am for wearing masks at the school. I appreciate all of the measures that the school has put in place to allow our kids to be in school. I work for a public health agency which works with a lot of children, and we have seen, especially in the Des Moines School District, where kids were not able to be in school and the ill effects that had on them. And I do worry about having kids having exposure to someone else being home, when there's parents that have to choose between working and having a paycheck and putting food on the table versus sending their kids to school. And if they have an exposure and have to be sent home, that's a problem. I also understand that the more virus load that is breathed in by a person could potentially make them sicker. So with everyone wearing a mask, that does decrease the ability of people to become more sick. Our children do not have the choice of becoming vaccinated at this time. And so people, when they're able to do things outside of school, then you have your choice to send your kids or not send your kids to school. So when we're able to have when we do not have many facts about COVID at this time, at least we can send our kids to school, have the mask on, have less virus load, have less potential of a contact, and hopefully keep our kids safe. We do not know the long-term effects of COVID. This is definitely a real virus, and it is mutating. And so I just really hope that we can stay strong through the end of the school year, see how the summer plays out, and then make decisions going forward. I thank you for your time.
All right, thank you. Okay, and then we've got Aaron's iPhone. Aaron, when I unmute you, can you share your last name? Julie will put you in the minutes.
Hi, this is Erin Pudance.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. I agree that the masks need to go away. I pretty much just wanted to echo everything that some of the previous people have said, but one thing that definitely concerns me about Baxter School is that I don't ever see any teachers, staff, safety patrol outside at the beginning or the end of the day. You have kids running to and from the parking lot to cars on the other side of the street, and there's nobody out there. There's no adult. I have never been in a school district where there hasn't been some sort of rhyme or reason for dismissal and for drop off. And that concerns me. The last year or the year before, there was a couple accidents right outside Miss Damon's office that happened in the street. You know, I just don't understand why there's, you know, we're worried about the safety of our kids, but yet they're running around. Also, it's a closed campus. So why is it that I see kids going up to the school all the time, or up to the store or to the gas station, that are going back to school? They're not going to DMAC or on some sort of school release. They're going back to school. They're getting food and going back to school. If it's a closed campus, then why are kids leaving? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Erin. Anyone else? Ms. Applegate, would you like to speak? I've got you unmuted.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep, we sure can. Okay,
well, first I just wanted to thank you guys, like everybody else has said. I know, coming from a teacher perspective, for those on here who don't know me, Miss Applegate Brummel, I teach high school English. It has been an incredibly tough year to be a teacher, to be a student, to be in the school building, and I just thank you for your support of teachers, because yes, it is about the students. That's why all of us are in it. That's why any teacher will tell you they teach, but we are also adults. And as someone who personally this year has gone through quite a scary health scare with a cancer diagnosis, I am so grateful that we have been wearing masks and the kids have been wearing masks. I'm a very hands-on teacher. I like to sit with my kids. I like to help them. I don't like to just sit behind my desk, and having the masks is just one more positive reinforcement that I'm being safe, our kids are being safe, especially since kids don't have the option to be vaccinated yet. And we are so close to the end of the year. To me, it seems, why not just keep this same policy? It's working, kids are safe, teachers are safe, adults in the building are safe. And I am, you know, with Ms. Brown 100% when she talks about being thankful for the mask mandate and being in support of keeping it. So thank you again so much for all you guys do.
Thanks, Ms. Applegate. All right, that's all the hands we have raised. Last call. Oh, we've got, it just says iPhone. So person on iPhone, I'm gonna ask you to unmute and you're gonna have to share your name with us, please.
Hi, this is Zach Backus.
Oh, hey, Zach.
I just wanted to, I haven't heard a lot from high schoolers. I've just heard a lot from parents. And I just wanted to say that everybody I've been around, masks seem to be no big problem. And we all really, we're all fine with wearing masks because we know that if somebody gets sick with COVID, then we're not going to have to go home. I don't see an in-between between, yes, it's optional, because then it's just pointless. If somebody's not wearing a mask and somebody is wearing a mask, and you need both people to be wearing a mask. So I don't see how it could ever be just optional. We don't want to wear a mask, but they're going to wear a mask. It needs to be mask or no mask. And I just want to thank you guys for all your hard work. This has to be a hard job. And that's all I have to say.
All right.
I just wanted to put my 2 cents in.
All right, we appreciate it, Zach. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Oh, can they share more than once? Okay, Michael, we're gonna call on you one more time. Michael? Michael?
Is it working?
Yep.
Yep.
There you go.
Real quickly, nothing about the subject matter, just as a best practice. When you're holding a conversation, you're speaking Doc or John back and forth to somebody else, it's really hard for the people out here in the audience who are watching this to hear those things, since we can't see them. And since a good policy, which I agree with, by the way, is that when people are speaking, we should, obviously be unmuted and you should be able to see us. I think you should be doing the same thing with the board members and your staff and faculty that are gathered around you there, because we can't see what's going on when somebody over in the distance is saying something, we can barely hear it. So you guys ought to probably do that.
All right, we appreciate the feedback, Michael. Okay.
Any other public forum?
Oh, yeah, one more. Zach?
Yeah, I just wanted to jump back in with another point. Sorry, I was all over the place. And it's not all about just if the kids get COVID, yeah, we're going to be fine. But we would just feel terrible if we got COVID and we didn't have our masks. And then, like, Miss Cross was our substitute today. If I gave Miss Cross COVID, I'd feel terrible. Or if I gave Miss A COVID, that would just be terrible. Yeah, the kids are going to be fine, but what if we take it home and then we give it to our grandma, or if we give it to our aunt, whatever, or our mom? It's not about the kids. Yeah, we're going to be fine. It's where the kids then take the virus after that. Now I'm done. Now that's my 2 cents.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Any other public forum?
Oh, it looks like we have, yeah, let's see. Christy, I'm gonna click on you and you need to unmute. There we go.
I'd just like to respond back to the last few people who are trying to fear and trying to state that I want to restate the fact that there is risk every day in our lives. And to impose that we are supposed to live in fear by a virus is crazy. It's not right to place the blood on somebody's hands. I completely agree. And I think we need to give back our liberty, and we need to use logic and reason, because this is low risk and there's no way we're ever going to know the long-term side effects. And as a cancer survivor, I understand what that means. You need to use reason and logic and look at the risk to our kids, and the fact that the staff have had the opportunity to get vaccinated, The rate of documented infections in Jasper County is 50% by CDC guidelines. On top of that, the vaccinations, and the only ones that are documented are the cases since we've been able to test for COVID. I, myself, believe wholeheartedly that I had COVID last February because we know it came into the States in December. And I can almost guarantee there are many people on this call and in the community who got severely ill last January and February who had undocumented cases of COVID. So the fact of the matter is it's already gone through our community, and we're putting these crazy policies in place, sending fear into the hearts of our high school students to think that they should feel guilty about maybe getting a teacher sick. We've never approached this in the history of humanity with things that are more severe to our kids, like the flu. So we need to consider all of the things that are risky behavior. And I would argue, if you're that fearful, bubble wrap yourself, put yourself in the basement. Those of us who want to live in this nation with freedom and liberty should be allowed to go out and express ourselves and our constitutional rights and protect and preserve the liberty for our kids and deliver the #1 priority of the school, education first. Thank you.
Yep, thank you. Okay, and then the last one, I'm gonna call on Nikki, and I just need to remind everybody we have 3 minutes. So Nikki, you're up. Can you hear us, Nikki?
I can.
Okay, perfect.
I just wanted to respond to what Zach said. And I think that's a misnomer that was given in the video too. And we just need to clarify. Masks are not only if everybody in the room, or at least supposedly, they're supposed to work. You can protect yourself with a mask. And that's all we're asking. The only thing that matters if everybody has the mask on, just to clarify, is what the public health department's policy would be for the school in terms of quarantining if there's a positive person. That doesn't mean that only people, if you're only in a situation where everyone has a mask on, are you protected? If the mask, you can wear your mask to protect yourself if you want to, but it does affect the policy for the school to follow in terms of a COVID positive. So nobody is saying that you cannot protect yourself. What we are saying is your comfort should not be where you are stopping me from protecting my family and my children the way that I see fit. And you can protect yourself and your children the way you see fit. If you want to wear 5 masks to school, go for it. I don't care. And I want you, and I want the school, and I want everyone else to stay out of my business how I think I need to protect my children, because I want the best for my children. And what's happening right now at the school with these elementary school kids and their faces covered is not the best for our children. It's just fear. So that's what I wanted to clarify. It has nothing to do with everybody in the room for a mask to work to have their mask on. Your mask is supposed to work for you, and you have every right to protect yourself with that mask. Thank you.
You bet. Okay.
Okay, all right. We'll move on to our business items. And first thing under that is our building project update. And it looks like we're going to transfer some money.
Yep, so what we're gonna do is, let's see, I'm gonna find where we're at here on the notes real quickly. We're gonna transfer $537,317.98 from the Construction Capital Assets Fund to the SAVE Fund, and that's just to recoup some of the initial money that we had to lay out before the bond got in place. So it's just to, we're just shifting up from one fund to another. It's not new money or anything like that. It's just trading it from one account to another.
Okay, does anybody have any questions on that?
Because I've been like all the drawings and everything.
Yeah, it was it was all that preliminary stuff. We had to get
hire architects,
legalities taken care of. Some remember when we had to do the Standard & Poor's, evaluations we had to do, and all the bonding that we had to prepare for. So, yeah.
Any other questions? Okay, do we have a motion to approve the transfer of funds from the construction capital assets funds to the SAVE fund for reimbursement of upfront costs of the building project prior to the bonding funds availability? We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second. We should take a roll call.
We have a roll call.
Corey Robinson,
Yes.
Debbie Meyer,
Yes.
Colette Kunkel, Kim Ticky,
Yes.
John Northrup.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item under business is principals reports. Rob, do you want to go first tonight?
Absolutely. I thought I'd just kick this off after that long discussion with some academics. And I know there's been a lot of discussion out there of how our kids are doing academically off last spring and this year. So we did finish the ISAFs test this week. That was another note. I think, are you all the way done? We're a couple makeups, we're all the way done. We're probably 3 to 4 weeks out. I think we're really excited to see that data, not because yay or even bad, but to analyze it, see where we're at, really start to look at some trends and Baxter, what we're great about as each individual kid. But with that said, I know there was been a lot of discussion at the middle school and reading scores, reading comprehension scores, where we've been really with about a year off. So we do an assessment called A Reading Fast Bridge that really focuses in on comprehension. We also do some fluency, but I pulled the numbers from Mrs. Luther today as she was finishing these for our spring A reading. And I just thought it was telling as we get concerned about a lot of things right now with the pandemic and masks. I think there's a lot, I think Michael said it very well, we don't know what we don't know right now, and we're definitely concerned with social emotional, but at least this is solid data on some academics. So our 6th graders this year at spring level, 94% were at or above grade level on their comprehension. We asked, even pre-pandemic, the number kind of is about an 80%. You want your core instruction, what we're doing in that classroom to reach 80%. So 94, obviously, we were really happy with our 6th graders, where they're at right there. Our 7th graders were at 81% in grade level comprehension. All students below that bar, so those 19% were all identified in special ed. Not that that makes it right or wrong, but at least they have their own individual plans that are being worked on above and beyond the gen ed. And the last one, our 8th graders had just under 90% proficient in comprehension reading. And we took a good look at the 10% again today, and all of those students that had not met grade benchmark had at least shown progress since fall. So at least we feel we're moving in the right direction with some of our MTSS strategies. So I actually, that's celebratory good news for our middle school. Wherever we're headed, whatever we're doing on the reading comprehension, we feel like we're really at grade level. We didn't take huge steps back in the last year and a half. Pretty good. Doesn't mean we don't have work to do, doesn't mean we have individual kids we're working with, but just big picture, that was pretty good news. And we are monitoring that along with math closely. High school gets a little different because they're all over the boards in different grades and classes. That's kind of why we're pretty excited about ISAF testing, because it just at least gives us one measure against against their peers. I do want to thank and recognize our track meets. I think Baxter, I'm brand new to running a track meet. First of all, Zach Hasselbrink has been instrumental with so many people. We've ran our first 2, we have 5. The volunteers have came out of the woodwork to help. They really ran smooth, or at least the second was smoother. We have another one tomorrow night. And beyond running the track meets, our girls coaches right here has won 2 meets in a row, one our own meet, one down at Eddyville. So our girls are doing fantastic, and I'm just excited to get our middle school kids back on a track tomorrow. Kind of dawned on us as we're organizing the track meet. None of our middle school kids have ever ran at a track meet because of the pandemic last spring, and now we're just opened up. So might be a little bit of a circus tomorrow night, but we're all kind of prepared, and hopefully we get some decent weather and do that. We had our National Honor Society ceremony induction today. Hats off to Mr. D, and our kids do a fantastic job with that. We actually brought in 2 different grades because we didn't have it last spring. So we brought in 7 from the 2020 class and then 7 students from the 2021. As you look, I spoke today to the right and left. I mean, we have great kids at Baxter. Those kids are the best of our best. We're who we are because of kids sitting in those seats today. I want to recognize Anna Brown, who spoke earlier. Anna was awarded with the ISCA 2021 Teacher of the Year in Iowa. So that is ISCA, that organization recognized the top teacher in the state of Iowa. She was recognized. There's some stuff that goes along with that, but we're excited she does get to travel to DC at that national convention and be put up for National Teacher of the Year. So hats off, first one we've ever had with ISCA Teacher of the Year. And again, my last one, because I know we have a lot on the docket, and our senior exit interviews are April 27, 28. So I encourage all of the board to come out. The way we're doing it this year, it's both days. We will be separated pretty well, so we feel as many want to come in as one can come in. 30 minutes starting at 3:30 or 4 each day till about 8 o'clock at night. Our seniors will present for 15 or 20 minutes about various things of who's influenced them to get to graduation, what Baxter's meant to them, as well as things that they think that we can improve on or that they would have liked to see different. And then we spend the last 10 minutes or so with an actual interview Q&A that we have with each senior. It's really, I don't know how many years it's been, probably close to 10 since we've been doing it. I'm anxious this year because we missed it last year to hear from our kids. It is a requirement for graduation, but I know they appreciate board and admin and anybody else that comes in because it is celebratory. So if you want to come in, you want more specifics on those nights, they'll be in 2 rooms, each of those 2 nights from about 3:30 till about 8. So I invite you in and I will definitely report back on how those go. So that's what I have.
Thank you. Jason?
Yeah, I have like one item that'll take a little bit of time because I want to, it's now an appropriate time to share the proposal for our reading curriculum adoption with the board because I don't really see it on the agenda. So can I just do it during this time? How does that work?
I think we normally have it set up in May.
Please get it ordered.
Well, I wanted to order it before May.
We can do it somewhere. You can,
not,
yeah. We should have had it as an agenda item. Yeah.
I apologize.
It's okay.
Greatly. I thought we had it on for April, but
Yep, go ahead.
So just to echo Rob, just ISAS got those tests done, minus a couple of kids. We're gonna try to wrap those up tomorrow, and looking forward to that data. So I'll just leave it at that. So can I have just a couple quick handouts for you. So this one was kind of the procedure we went through for the adoption of the resource as we looked at different things. These I can just put a couple. I brought them if you want to like take a second. You don't have to by any means, but this is the what we landed on, wonders for our resource. And I grabbed a couple grade levels. You can just kind of flip through some stuff if you want to take a look. And then
Is McGraw-Hill the?
McGraw-Hill is the company. Yeah.
Thank you.
It's called Wonders. And I will, and then I can sit and talk. I also have the cost for that, the quote for that. So we've spent the better part of a few months here with an ELA resource adoption team of teachers, AEA staff, instructional coach, and admin, and been digging in. So we really started off very early with a pretty planned out process for what we wanted to look at, how we wanted to move forward, and really what some of the key things were. So the very first thing we did, taking any resource out of the picture or all resources into the picture, how we wanted to look at it. On that sheet there, we did an instructional practices survey with our staff, really trying to dig in with the confidence that they had with certain instructional practices and what those practices look like in your classroom. So the team was able to really identify right off the bat, not only with a resource, but moving forward in teaching instruction or instructing in the area of English language and reading, what it is that instructionally we needed to beef up, or we needed some PD on, or how we're going to move forward, and then how a resource could support that work. So it was I'm just kind of summarizing some of these things around here. It was part of our ESSA work that we wanted to have a consistent curriculum to follow scope and sequence through the years from kindergarten through 5th grade. A universal resource is how it's kind of worded in our SAMI. And so it was very important to us that we were able to identify a resource that K-5 would be a benefit. So we started off with just some basic third-party sources. There's one called EdReports is what we used, and kind of spells it out there. I won't go through it all, but basically EdReports looks at resources and helps schools, administrators, teachers with initially a process on identifying those that they deem to be of high quality. And so they have a couple gateways that we talk about in there, and the first one basically is alignment to the standards. The first gateway, and first and second, excuse me. If a resource doesn't pass that part, it doesn't get to gateway 3, which is usability for teachers. So they pretty much eliminate right off that. So we were able to look through and identify the resources that we wanted to initially look at based on those types of things. And then we brought in sample materials. Josh contacted companies. He's been very instrumental in this work with our staff. Josh brought in all these different resources, Wonders 2020, My View, Into Reading, and Learn Zillion. And based off of what we learned from the EdReports, he worked with those companies to get our teachers the materials. And then our teachers spent time with those materials in their hands, looking through the different materials and trying to really use a rubric that we came up with. We came up with a K2 rubric and a 3-5 rubric to help us evaluate the materials. Because there are differences in the grade levels as far as what is expected of kids. And so we felt that we really needed 2 different ones. The teachers looked through, they evaluated the materials, collected all their data, all their input, and then working with the AEA, we were able to take a consensus vote. So we kind of worked through and looking at everybody's results, we landed on Wonders being the resource. Lots of positives from other schools. We tried to leave that out. I mean, that's a tough one, right? Like, oh, I know this teacher and they use Wonders and they love it. Or I know this teacher and they use My View and they hate it. You know, I mean, whatever. We tried to eliminate that because there is bias in different things. There's, we don't really know how another school district's set up or what their expectations were in choosing a curriculum or a resource. And so we tried to eliminate that from our rubric and really just use the word here. I will say, however, that our AEA reps know what other schools are using, and so they had some input that they shared with us, the success. We looked at the high-performing schools in the state and what they were using, so we were able to take a look at some different school districts that are scoring well on ISASS and different assessment areas and try to see what they were using and how that fell in. So we used several things to kind of help us with that, and again, landed on Wonders. I shared the quote with you. It's a 6-year quote. There are ways to eliminate that a little bit, like to whittle that down. We could get a 5-year quote, 4-year quote, kind of how we want to see. Most textbook companies come up with a new, I just lost the word I was looking for. New edition, roughly on a 5 to 6 year kind of range. And so I think this company, McGraw-Hill, felt comfortable that 6 years they weren't going to have a new edition out by then, and so they gave us the quote on that. We can, like I said, we can do some different things. I feel one thing I really want to make sure that everybody's aware of, so that going forward, the plan is, because we knew we had ESSA money, we had monies in categorical type funds that we needed to spend by a certain time. So we moved kind of fast as far as like, should we adopt it? Let's get moving with this. So we moved really fast with that because we knew we had a deadline to spend our money. But the plan is this team continues to move forward now, and now it's much more on the implementation and the rollout of it. And so now we're kind of entering a slow phase and everything where teachers are going to have it in their hands for next year. Teachers are going to be able to experiment with it and use different things. But we really want to make sure the PD around it. We really want to make sure that we are all in consensus and all using it with fidelity. And so that's going to kind of be a slower process. So we're looking at next year as the, I guess, for lack of better words, our practicing using it kind of thing with a full implementation the next year. So, I mean, getting 6 years, we're looking at 1 year of experimenting with it and really trying to understand it. And because it's a different way to instruct. I mean, it's different than our current benchmark literacy that we use. And so, and then the full implementation for the next 5 years after that, if we did a 6-year. So it's also, that quote's based on 40 per grade. We don't have 40 per grade, right, in all grades. So there are some things there. Josh and I talked a little bit on what number to land on. I have a feeling that most textbook companies aren't going to be like, yeah, we'll just send you a couple extra copies. If your grade happens to grow over 40, you'll probably have to buy those. Maybe bank some of the other ones, you know, if a grade, you know, maybe we bought 35, but the next grade coming in a couple of years later turns out to be 40. You know, if we bought 40, then we have some extra there. But yeah, so what can I answer above and beyond that? And I'll do my very best.
So is all of this hard? I mean, hard copy, everything other than I see the professional development is virtual. I'm
Yep.
thinking off the.
So it also.
What about the assessment? Is that?
Hard copy. So everything we get here, and teachers get in their 6 years, they have a 6-year subscription to everything that's digital as well. So there's digital resources available to them above and beyond. The one thing that's not in here that was brought to our attention last night is apparently Wonders, I didn't see it in here, Wonders has an intervention program as well. So Josh was going to try to enable that and see if that was something that could be a, you know, kind of an add-on, a freebie add-on, or if it was, you know, we just don't know much about it. So it was brand new, so we have no idea what it is. So we wanted to talk with them about that. But I will say that I think one of the most important things that we had and our teachers wanted was that they all wanted everything, right, with it, because maybe past purchases we weren't able to buy it all. So there was materials that were shared between 2 teachers, which became very difficult, right? Because, you know, I'm using them now, so then our blocks have to be on separate times, and we're trying to have our reading blocks on the same time so that, you know, we can then have conversations after about how they went instead of things are all over the place. So they're sharing materials back and forth. And so this is all encompassing. Each teacher gets everything, you know, is how we kind of built it in there.
And there's ESSA money to pay for all this, or is it kind of shared part, ESSA part?
Well, so we have ESSA money to cover a large portion of this. We also have some funding through Eli to help cover some of this. I also, though, have some other needs out of some of that Eli funding. If I can get the summer school program running for this summer, there's just some other needs. We also have some stuff we have to purchase with illustrative math, or math as well. So I got to kind of piece together there. I don't know what there is in fees that we collect, you know, as far as textbooks, what the district puts together too, but I feel comfortable in that monies that are set aside there categorically that I could cover that. I mean, that's how we need to work that through.
Okay.
We're quite confident that between Eli, ESSA, and then now ESSER to help with learning loss, there's funding.
What's ESSER?
That's the new federal programs. There's like the American Rescue Plan.
Okay.
That's ESSER 3, and then ESSER 2 was the CARES Act, some of that CARES Act funding. So a lot of that federal funding that we'll get, but there's some strict stipulations on how we can spend it, and some of it has to be on helping with. They're not calling it learning loss; they're calling it unfinished learning. So this can help with some of the unfinished learning.
So let's start. Curriculum cycles like 8 years. How does that fit in with the 6-year?
So I don't have it in front of me, but I felt, so we made the decision with the math because we had the opportunity to be a part of a pilot. So we kind of jumped our math in front of our reading. And again, I don't have it in front of me like, this is the year you're supposed to be doing this is the year you're supposed to be doing that, how it played out. But we jumped math in front because of that possibility. Again, using ESSA funds to help us with that. So we were able to push that in front. I think we should have already been at least looking at reading stuff. So we kind of pushed that, and then math was falling after it. So we kind of like did a little bit of a leapfrog, but I still think we're right in where we're supposed to be with reading right now at the elementary level. So, and again, we have monies that have to be spent. And so that was kind of why the push was, let's move with it now while we have monies, instead of trying to figure out, well, where do we have monies to buy stuff? We have money. So. And obviously, as you see there, resources aren't cheap. So they're definitely not cheap.
Any other questions for Jason?
Well, you know, from one thing I think is probably pretty important, because I think you're all probably aware of maybe some past resource issues that we may have had as far as maybe not being so smart with our money on that and how we did some things. So I think the one thing that I feel really good that our ESSA designation prepared us for was consensus, was this idea around consensus, was this idea of being pretty thoughtful and pretty planful about what we do and how we do it, reasons for it, right? I mean, you know, why are we buying this versus that? What, you know, what are we looking for? What's the benefit of having a universal set of resources for our students? And so the team last night, they spent extra time themselves bringing up this importance of fidelity, of everybody using these materials, that we're going to maintain that, and then through the length of the term of this. And then at that point, that's when you reevaluate if you're moving to something else. You're just not throwing it out the window. You know, one of the things that I think has been not so strong is when we get new staff in, how do they learn how to use a resource that they may have never seen before, whatever. So we're moving forward with a discussion on that, like who's responsible for helping with that, how they're going to do that, how we're going to make sure our new staff feel that the resources are there and they can use them. So I feel very confident that moving forward, we're going to be in great shape, and that this is the decision is going to be well worth the money and well worth, the time put in by the staff to learn, use it, and to move forward with it to benefit our students. So, because I think we put a lot of things in place to make sure that happens. So, I thought that was probably pretty important.
Any other questions? I'd like to make a motion to approve the purchase of the reading curriculum for K through 5 from McGraw-Hill, The Wonders 2020.
I'll make the motion.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Favor aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion's approved to purchase that reading curriculum. Okay, next item on the agenda is our COVID-19 policy, both regarding masks and facility usage. Decided we talk about that at every board meeting to see if we needed to update it. So I guess we can begin the discussion.
One thing I want to just bring up quickly, just so people are aware, if I misrepresented things on the video, I certainly did not mean to. I do not in any way mean that our mask policy is binded by state law or anything like that. All I am saying is the quarantine policy, and I don't know that like people can see this. I'm sure you probably can't. But I will, I think I've sent it out before. It's called COVID-19 Response When to Quarantine. But when you look at this, and I believe this is probably what Zach was referring to, this comes from the Iowa Department of Public Health, and this is the quarantining guidelines. So if everyone is masked, then if someone is positive, COVID positive, then the close contacts just need to self-monitor. But if someone is COVID positive and they're wearing a mask and others aren't wearing a mask, then the ones that aren't wearing the mask have to quarantine because of Iowa Department of Public Health guidelines, not because of Baxter school policy. And then another situation could be if someone is COVID positive and they're not wearing a mask and another group of people are wearing a mask, the people wearing the mask still have to quarantine if they've been considered a close contact. And that, again, is not our policy. That's Iowa Department of Public Health's policy. And that if no one is masked, then the person that's COVID positive has to quarantine and the people who are close contacts have to quarantine. And while you guys are discussing, I'm going to see if I can load this onto the computer and share the screen so that people have a chance to look at it if you haven't seen this before. So you guys can have your discussion, and I'm going to kind of take over the screen for a second.
So, heard from the public tonight as far as our mask policy and where we go from here. I guess I'd like to hear kind of some of the board's thoughts.
I guess for myself, we were sitting here a year ago wondering if we'd even have school this year. And it's kind of these same exact discussions of, well, we need to know planning for our family, which I understand. But as you look back a year ago, nobody had a clue what was going to happen until summer came along. Finally said, okay, we can open the doors. Some schools chose not to. We did with masks. So I kind of feel like we're sitting there again about what are we going to do next year when we don't know what's going to happen in 2 months from now or a month from now. So I guess for next year, yeah, I think we've all kind of said it. We would really hope that we can go back to normal. No masks. That's my hope anyway. But in the meantime, we have, just like last year, we kind of have to, we just went over these guidelines here. And I think we've done pretty well all year explaining we're following these guidelines. We're not making stuff up. We're not coming up with our own rules. When we said we could have school, okay, let's have school. Easy decision, but we couldn't make that decision until there was guidance from the state. Quarantine guidelines came out. Okay, we're gonna follow these quarantine guidelines. We have. So, I guess I don't understand where this kind of comes as a shock to some people that kids have to quarantine and why masks are so important in the classroom, because we've been following this guideline all year. Yes, I understand, I get it. Some kids don't like wearing masks. My kids are fine with it, but that's my children, so I guess I'm good with it. But I guess kind of what we've done all along through that whole process of we followed guidelines from whether it be the state, county, CDC, we kind of haven't been flying on the cuff. We've been kind of sticking to what's been put out there, the credible information that we can follow. So at this point in time, with the recommendation and the guidelines still in place, I feel we should probably follow that through the end of the school year here. And like I say, over the summer, hopefully those change and we can go back to normal. But that's my thoughts.
Okay. Anybody else have their thoughts they'd like to?
I have a couple things. This is Debbie. If Darcy Dammon is still on, she made a comment about communicating as quickly as possible, and that is something that we'll try to continue doing. I understand how families have to make plans that's best for their family, and we're in a situation, as you know, that is always changing, but we do understand that people need to do what's best and have time to make those plans. So I just want to say that we'll try our best to communicate. We can always do better in that. I think in reference to Michaelin's video, although some obviously did not like it, I do think that, it is a way of communicating, whether you like it, what she said or didn't like, or it's communication. It's better than nothing. You want more communication. So whether you agree with what she says, and it's fair to point out things that are inaccurate. As she said, she never intended to mislead anybody, but it is communication. I truly appreciated the video. And so anyway, I just wanted to point that out. I do have a question about the recess. A couple people mentioned mask wearing during recess, how they weren't wearing masks initially and now they are. And I guess I wasn't aware of that. And maybe you can touch on
Yeah,
that,
so
Jason?
all I can say about that is so we planned at the beginning of the year, obviously lunch, recess were areas where we hoped kids weren't going to be able to wear masks. The biggest issue I ran into out at recess is keeping kids socially distanced at recess, in which on some level, they almost refuse to be not in groups, not like sitting on top of each other, you know, just right on top of each other all the time. So we wore masks because of our inability to spread out and stay away from each other, which by nature, I understand an elementary student, right? I mean, that's where we're at. I will say that, you know, out of recess, I'm only out of one of the recesses. There are very few comments to kids about putting their masks on during recess. More comments about spreading out, social distancing, spread out, spread out, spread. I mean, and the only time where I've even personally, just in recent times, addressed kids with masks is when they're sitting that close together to put their masks on. Just you're sitting right on top of each other, having conversations, playing, whatever. So there's way more comments on social spreading out, social distance, spread out, stop being so close to each other. But there's kids all the time out of recess that are out, spread out, that pull their mask down under their nose and aren't asked to pull their masks up because they're not near each other. But the biggest issue we found as the school year progresses, we could not keep them apart from each other. We could not at that, you know, as it is, we're spread out over the playground, but they just want to be in bunches all the time. So it's kind of that mask policy, but also a social distancing policy, of which I get that we're outside and we're doing the best we can, but when they are sitting that close together, you know, that tightly together, then that was the judgment I made. So I made that judgment call based on that. So.
And then maybe, you know, I know we talked initially about breathing breaks during the classroom.
Yeah.
I assume that's happening. There was a couple comments that it's not. I don't know. We talked about it. I feel like it is happening.
I can't tell you for a fact that teachers are taking official breathing breaks. Let's get up, let's go outside, let's do, I mean, there's some of that happening in some rooms more than others. Sure. There is probably a sense of, you know, once most teachers were vaccinated, that there was a little bit of a relief and a little bit of a letdown on some level with some teachers as far as how strict they were trying to maintain masks in their room. I personally have never heard a teacher reprimand a kid for pulling down their mask, taking a break, and because we're trying to spread them out the best we can. So as long as we're not in super tight situations, that's where we're at. So.
And I'm with Corey. I support it until for the remainder of the year, and I hope things are going to be better for the fall. But we don't know that yet, so we have to make decisions when we have the information, and hopefully we can communicate that as quickly as possible. I appreciate hearing from people in public forum. I'm in support for sure till the end of the year. Okay. For the mask.
Any other comments?
As of right now, I do support continuing, but in my mind, I definitely support by fall not having the mask. I can't see in another 2 months, 3 months, 4 months that we'll still be wearing them. But as of right now, I mean, we only have like another month of school. And I just think it's the best as of right now to continue to follow the guidelines that have been given to us for 4 more weeks.
Kim, you want to add anything?
Sure. I also am in favor of continuing with our current policies. I don't see why we would change anything, especially, I mean, I'm grateful to hear from teachers as well. From their perspective, obviously the reason that we're in school is to have kids in school. We can't have kids in school if our teachers aren't in school. So that goes both ways with kids wearing masks and with teachers wearing masks. And we know as the board, we're trying to do what's best for our kids and what's best for the district. And when we have information, we can make decisions with the information we have. And right now, the information we have is not to change anything. I know the Department of Public Health is putting out guidance to local public health agencies. There's a lot of COVID fatigue everywhere. I mean, this isn't a unique situation in our district by any means. Everyone is dealing with this. So we'd all like to get rid of masks. that would, I mean, nobody's going to say, I would love to wear a mask forever. I mean, that's just not where we are either. But I also don't think it would be appropriate for us to make a decision to go against public health recommendations and lift our mask requirement just because we're tired of it. That just because we're tired of it doesn't mean COVID is gone. So until that would be a change in recommendation or change in guidance, I wouldn't see why we would change anything with what we're doing. And especially, you know, when we're hearing from our science teacher, this is working, and it's been, that's great to hear, you know, from internal within our district as well. So that's where I'm coming from.
Okay. Yeah, I guess I've thought about it quite a bit the last few days, and I go back to a year ago where we were at, kind of like you said, Corey, and you know, at that time, I guess our goal was, we didn't have kids in school. Our goal was to start last school year with kids in school, and we did. We had to wear masks to accomplish that, but we thought it was most important to have our kids in school. Now looking at it a year later, I guess personally, I'd like to have a goal that our kids are going to be in school next fall without a mask mandate. I mean, if somebody feels like they have to wear a mask, I'm not going to tell them they can't, but I don't want to be in a spot where we mandate that they have to. Now I realize there's might be some things are going to have to change with the CDC or whatever on that, but you know, I guess that's my personal feeling that I do agree. I mean, I think there's loss in learning when kids have to wear masks all the time. And it has to be a distraction. I know it's a distraction to me when I wear one. So, but as far as finishing out the year, I guess I tend to agree with everyone that we've made it this far. We're 4 or 5 weeks away from the end of the year. Let's continue through, and then we'll have 3 months during the summer where maybe some policies can change. Some of the directives that we need to follow as far as you know, how we have to quarantine people if they aren't wearing masks versus they are, and that sort of thing. I guess I would like to see some of those change so that we would have the ability to you know, make those decisions.
I remember thinking at the beginning of, or maybe before school started, like our goal is to keep kids in school as long as possible. And my daughter's birthday is in October, and I remember thinking, I hope she can have a birthday, you know, take birthday treats or celebrate a birthday in October. Like, are we going to be able to make it to October? And we're in the middle of April, and that's great.
Yeah, it was. Michael said multiple times, we just want to keep kids here as long as we can,
right?
Whether it's a month, 2 months, you know, Christmas. Yeah, like I say, and I think, you know, especially there for the winter when there's so many cases, I don't know how many kids would have been out of school if we didn't have a mask, and that's definitely not good. I in my mind is, you know, I was there. I had kids home, and it was tough. We got through it, but yeah, I'm definitely not a teacher, and I'm glad they could be in school and learning how they should.
Even when we were hybrid, I had those same thoughts, Corey. Like, the best place for my kids is with their teachers because I'm not being effective at my job when I'm trying to help them with any lessons either. I mean, that the best place we want our kids is in school, and we've been able to make that compromise by wearing a mask. And I think that's great that we can be at that point and still be in school when we want our kids to be learning in school. I mean, that's ultimately where we want them.
Okay. So I guess from what I hear, we're pretty much at consensus to continue our mask policy through the end of this school year. And, have a goal of next fall. We won't have that mask mandate. Kids will be here. So. Some other things to talk about is opening the building for outside groups, fun days, alumni banquet. meetings, that sort of thing, which a lot of those like alumni and fun days is after the school year's over. So I mean, to me, that's a little bit, maybe an easier decision, since there aren't going to be kids in the building during the weekdays. But what's people's thoughts on that?
I guess I think whatever the guidance is for athletics, I mean, if we're able to have people in the building to attend athletic events, I don't see how it's that much different really to have other events in the building either. I mean, if we were restricting people for sporting events, then that would be a different conversation, I think.
Do you feel like with that, if that's the way we're gonna go, which like that's completely fine. If a mom or a dad wants to come for lunch, are we gonna open it up for that? Like if they follow our mask policy?
Well, since lunch seems to be a problem with,
I
with
should've
potential
made guess
exposures,
lunch.
and
Yeah.
that's when we're unmasked, maybe we don't need to go that direction right now. That seems like that's where I've been hearing from potential exposures anyway.
Yeah.
So that would maybe be a spot we could still continue to have some limitations in place for that, because we know we're not going to be masked when we're at lunch.
Mm-hmm. But if we like say have a, I don't know, Jason, do you have like
We have
room
I
moms
mean,
or?
we've battled this for the last 6 or 8 weeks because it was a hard no on everything for a while from everybody. And then it got to the point where let's talk about guest speakers that couldn't Zoom, or DMAC coming in, or the military who needs to talk to a kid. We've followed the rule. If we can do it virtually, we're going to, but if it doesn't make sense to do that, if that person follows our mask policy, we let them in the building. That's just kind of, it's been a lot more lately. I mean, we're gonna have prom, and I mean, that's gonna be a masked event now, if that's where we're at, but I mean, we're gonna have post-prom in here, big time. Graduation, right now, I just feel like if we're following our policy, as long as we're smart about it, but I don't know what that looks like from board policy, but you're seeing more and more traffic. It is, you know, I've fought this all the time. We're out at track meets, and our policy at the track meet is masks are recommended if you can't be 6 feet apart. Well, you go out to a track meet, I can tell you, I mean, you're in a minority, or it's, you know, I have it on and try to be in close quarters, but when it's recommended, then it's that person, but it's still a school function. You know, I think if it's not a school function, if it's somewhere else other than school, that's something, but that track meet is still ours, but it's outside. So I get conflicted as well.
Yeah, the one that my teachers have asked about is upcoming, like a track and field day, you know, because parents come to that. Again, that's outside. We're not necessarily bringing them into the building. Outside there, what will it be our policy with parents? Is it recommended that they wear masks if we have that track and field day? You know, I mean, that's kind of been brought up. And so I don't know what the answer is. Kind of related to that is we also have 2 PE teachers that have never run a track and field day. So I don't even know if it's on their radar because they've never had the opportunity to, right? They haven't done it. They're both brand new, and we didn't have one last year. So I haven't even really spoken to them yet because I wasn't really sure what the board policy would be about that out there, you know, as far as having track and field day.
There's with senior X interviews. So I've already said we're doing them. They're sending out this week invites. You know, we feel like if we can socially distance, we're going, right now we're still planning on the music concert. I've been working closely with those two. We're not limiting attendance, but we're going to do middle school and high school. We know our numbers. I just feel like we're going to be very well, you know.
Are we streaming it too?
What's that?
Are we streaming it as well?
Yeah,
for people who don't feel comfortable coming, they can stream it.
We won't stream senior X interviews, I don't
the
think,
concerts,
but yeah,
I mean.
concerts, we streamed the National Honor Society inductions today. The good that's come out of this is we've learned how to be a little bit Zoom, a little bit better about getting things out so you can sit on your couch and enjoy something without trudging out in the cold winter to watch a basketball game. I think some of those things will stick a little bit, which has been really good for us. But I can see us just starting to inch and move that way, right or wrong. It just, but we're always following guidelines. So.
And we did get data the other day from, I think it was this week, from Jasper County that Baxter was at 0% positivity, and the county was at like, or very low. I'd have to double check the data, but it's very low. So I would feel, I mean, I know it's not clearly your decision, but I would feel good if you would say, yeah, like what Rob and Jason were saying, that we can invite parents in as long as they follow our policies, and on track and field day, just like we follow our track policy, mass recommended at track and field day. And we want this to be as normal as possible for these kids, but like Kim's also said, we're not there yet. So there's that quarantining that we still have to worry about. It's just that quarantining that's so problematic. It's, you know.
I still would like to see some sort of administrative approval, just so those flood, because we've had a couple events here that we tried to come up with a different solution, didn't, and it just backfired, because it's when you open, I'm worried about that with concerts. So if we had the ball games, we had this policy, but I made it because of you were sitting within your own household. Well, if North Tama comes in there and there's 7 people sitting together with no masks, I don't know their household. We just assumed, you know, and it's funny, I felt like we were better all year long on our side of the floor masked than the visitors, but we never made it a point to go over there and talk to anybody about their masks. But if we have a mask mandate at a concert, I'm gonna feel it's on me to have to go over and say, we decided this whole event will be masked and please pull your mask up. And I do think, you know, one example just today, I talked to our speech teacher who they got their all-state speech taken, who's trying to do an alternative, because I know we've talked about field trips or whatever, but as long as where we're going, we're meeting guidelines, and if we're meeting our guidelines, we're starting to do, it just doesn't make sense to say, no, you can't do that, but yet we're gonna bring everybody in for a basketball game. So I just think it needs to be smart, whether that's through Michaelin or building administration, because those things are happening all the time, and it's not a hard no right now. So maybe the policy says outside organizations are approved through administrative approval. I'm just throwing that out there because I'm dealing with it almost every day now, who's coming into our building, who's not. I just would like to know that. I appreciate some teachers asking for a guest speaker. We approved it, 6 feet, masked up, but I knew about it, so I know who's in these hallways and whether to tell who they are, if we have to tell them, which I've had to. You know, we're a mask facility, please put your mask up, not just kids.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I think that's fair. I mean, having you guys make that judgment call.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, public health recommendation is 6 feet, or if you can't social distance 6 feet, then you're masked. I mean, I think that would apply to like a track and field, Jason. So, you know, say what our policy is, recommended, and you're outside at a track and field event. I mean, we're not all clustered together waiting for an event necessarily. I feel like I could, as a parent watching, I can spread myself out from another parent. So I wouldn't feel like that would be something that would need to be as strict, you know, as an outdoor venue.
Yeah, but I think what they're saying is we just need to make that clear and say, this is what it is. Yeah. It's an outside event, track meet, whatever. Yes, 6 feet distance. We, you know, recommend wearing a mask, but you know, as long as you're social distance, fine. Otherwise, wear a mask. But it's no different than people asking about the playground. But like you're saying, they're not social distancing,
right,
so they need to have their mask on.
Right.
So I think we just need to say, this is what we recommend, and this is what we're saying our policy is. But yet on like people coming in, like Rob's saying, people coming in, and we can leave that to you. How you want it. But it's, again, it's the same thing. Social distance, if you can, mask, but obviously we have a policy that you need to have a mask inside.
So are you saying some of these gatherings might be getting a little too large?
It's new, so yeah, I mean, and I fight myself because we've seen what happens at athletic events, and you go, well, that's pretty loose, like it or don't, and then we come in here and it's, you know, but it's hard to control those around, you know, and then there's that inside outside, that whole thing, because I do get worried. I was watching track meet the other night and thinking, I mean, camera on that, if we had a positive, Now we're not just contact tracing lunch. There would be multiple kids in small track groups for sure, but I don't know how that I just notice it. And I'm going, that would never fly in our building, yet it's happening out at the complex. And only from administrative, our kids, if I see parent, I didn't even look in the stands. But I worry about our kids, prom and graduation. I can't even imagine telling a kid because somebody didn't have a mask that you're not gonna walk graduation. That just in a single incident concerns me because we worked so hard just to even have a graduation last year. Where that's just the safe one, that if we know, you know, I'm gonna start telling kids that seniors, I would eat by yourself at lunch. I really would. I mean, because if you're not, there's that possibility. But we know things, I mean, the alumni have talked to me, theirs is in June. I mean, I'm gonna look for recommendation probably in May, if not, I don't know, where the June board meeting. I mean, can we separate them to 6 feet? Are we gonna ask those people to come in masked? Because that may change whether they come. I mean, there's a lot of that right now, people asking, what's a policy? Because I'm just not going to come in. I mean, we had that with ISAS, and we just made sure it was after our hours, and then we social distanced them.
Well, and with the alumni banquet, those people would be after school, and those people are over 18, so many of them may have been vaccinated. So like even now with the vaccine, if we were to be exposed, we wouldn't have, those of us who've been vaccinated don't have to quarantine. So that would maybe factor into some of that too, like for the concerts and alumni banquet. If they've been vaccinated, like if, you know, if we're worried about some of those grandparents, many of those 65 and older folks have been vaccinated, so they'd be good.
And
So
I'm not saying we should or we shouldn't. I'm gonna look to you to tell, as of right now in those concerts, we're probably not gonna follow, because our common area rule right now is masked. We don't have a 6-foot distance in any of our common areas. We will not mask in the classroom when they're 6 feet. I see that happen frequently when we can social distance. If you're walking down the hallway or sitting in any of our common areas outside of eating, and then we're pretty good masking up again. So my feeling is when they come in for concert, it's not gonna be or 6 feet, we're gonna be masked at the concert. And we wanna make sure, but that's all, I'll look to you guys for
Which
guidance.
that's no different than a basketball
Right.
game,
No,
right?
no, but we did say at a basketball game, if you were social distance or within your family, we allowed that. So I'm just looking for guidance, and I'm thinking more like the alumni banquet. I hear what Michaelin's saying. We're gonna wanna tell them, are we masked in this area, or is it recommended that you're masked as long as you can remain 6 feet? Because I just think that's, and there may be more of those banquets or whatever. What is our policy? And then who's monitoring that policy? Because that's a little bit of our problem we've ran into on a couple little things. Just whose job is it to monitor that policy?
And be the heavy of.
well, and if the alumni
don't.
banquet, they're adults that have also been, you know, most likely given the opportunity to get a vaccine. So a little bit of there's some personal responsibility. So if, and I'm not telling you what to do, but if you wanted to say masks are recommended and not required for like fun days or the alumni banquet, if people choose to come to those events and they choose to come without a vaccine and without a mask, that maybe that's a risk they're willing to take, and others aren't willing to take that risk, and so they won't come, or they'll get vaccinated, or they'll wear their mask. And you know, there's some personal responsibility there as well.
Which again, those events, if you're talking about, there's no students, this isn't
Right.
about learning, being in the classroom. These are people just using the building for an event, older people mainly, so I don't have a problem with that.
No,
Yeah,
I
that's
don't
their
either.
choice.
It's not a school event.
Yeah.
As far as concerts go, I mean, I can't see people being able to distance themselves in a concert.
No, I mean,
Like,
our kids are actually gonna sing and play with masks, I believe, is where we're at.
so
So if we're asking them to,
right, I just don't think you can say recommended because I don't see a distance. Whereas like the games, yes, they, you know, in the beginning, it was easier to distance, but towards the end, it wasn't. So, I mean, it was hard to monitor for opposing schools, but I think our school did pretty well.
So I think if you're looking for guidance, I think we would just stick with what our policy is already, which is mask.
as required.
if you can't social distance.
For school
the
events.
Right, for school events.
So then,
graduation, our kids will not be able to 6-foot distance, so I've already told them they'll be in masks until they walk the stage. We just met for that photo op and get that, because you will be for the, and we'll do the same with parents, and we require masks unless you can social distance, but again, that's gonna be.
Are we limiting attendance at graduation?
Right now, we had a principal meeting across the conference, and we would be in the high majority of unlimited attendance because of all the schools in our conference are small. Usually we limit the floor to 6, so it's possible. We were just talking yesterday. You put those chairs on the floor. If every senior has 6, those will be mask required because those chairs are going to be. But if you're in the bleachers, we ask that you either wear a mask or be social distance. It's less than it would be for a ball game or graduation typically. So there's a few schools that went to 4 and 6 at graduation. Everyone's having them. One school still remaining to do outside, I believe, but everybody else has moved back inside with unlimited masks unless you can social distance. We don't have to do what everybody else is, but it's always nice to know what everybody else is doing.
Okay. So we need to update our board policy on that,
No,
or not?
no, it's already decided to
Since
go.
it's not changing
Yeah,
right now
we
at this
decided to
point?
go through the end of the year, but
Okay.
you all just wanted to revisit it every month,
Okay.
so.
And the only thing I guess we brought up tonight was after school's out,
Yeah.
those type of scenarios like fun days or alumni banquet. So
That you
do we
will
need-
let them in. Yeah,
do
let's.
we need to address that?
Let's do that. Yeah, let's do that.
Okay, where did we come down on that? That masks are recommended for say alumni banquet
Yes.
or
Non-student functions.
Yeah, I
non-student
think that's
function.
fair.
How long do we want to run that policy? Through the summer?
Sure.
Does that sound?
Or until CDC guidelines change, and then you'll revisit it if they change.
Yep.
You okay with that?
Yes.
and I can certainly update you each month if there's new guidance or anything like that, I'll be happy to share that with you guys at the board meetings.
Would you like me to keep this as an agenda item on there through the summer, just whether we have anything or not, we can
Yeah.
just skip through it? Yeah, okay. Does somebody want to make a motion for all
So
that?
I'll make a motion to amend the board policy for the outside groups during the summer.
I'll make the motion.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor, aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion's approved.
Rob and Jason, do you guys feel like we've given you clear direction then for those other sorts of questionable areas? Or?
Yeah, I feel okay.
Jason, I do have one question, and John and I talked about this, summer school. Will we require them to wear it for summer school? Will we spread them out in the classroom? Because they'll probably be in small groups, I would think, at a teacher table.
How many do you have? Do you know?
Or do we just, maybe we revisit that in May,
No,
the
I
May
think
meeting?
probably revisit at the May board
Okay.
meeting of how you want to move forward with summer school. If it's, because your policy is going to be the end of the school year, but then 2 weeks later, we start a summer school program, probably going to need I'm going to need your input on that as far as board on what we're going to be allowed to do or not allowed to do.
It sounds like from our conversation, the State Department of Ed hasn't even got some of the information out yet as to what.
Yeah, the USDE is supposed to be giving more guidance, and their conversation yesterday at the Zoom I was watching was we know there's fatigue, there's teacher fatigue, there's parent fatigue, there's administrative fatigue, and then there's kiddo fatigue. Like nobody, like we're having trouble finding teachers who even want to teach summer school. Like everyone just needs a break. So they've talked about, is it better to do summer school this summer? Or do we just take a break, come back in the fall, see where we're at, and then move forward the fall, like summer of 22 to recover the learning that we still lost. So that there's just lots of gray, and the Iowa Department of Education can't issue any guidance because they have to wait from the federal Department of Education to issue guidance. So it's still a very fluid situation. So as soon as we know more.
When are they gonna do that?
Yeah, that will, yeah.
You know, I'm trying.
For real,
to
like
find
school's
summer
gonna be
school,
over
they're gonna
soon.
tell
How
us
we-
not to have summer school, and then I put all this plan.
We're only a
Right.
month away, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, seriously, I'm a month away.
Yeah, so that was just a Zoom I was on yesterday. Jason was in for a little bit and then he had to step out. We were in and out of that Zoom. And they said, we'll be having more Zooms very soon, but they didn't give dates or times or anything. Just kind of a stay
Very
tuned.
similar to
Yeah,
last summer.
Last
like,
summer.
What are we doing for school, right? And then,
right.
What are we doing for summer school?
Things are changing.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Ever evolving, rapidly changing.
Yeah.
So I guess we can visit that in our May meeting if we're,
Great, thank you.
okay, sounds good. Okay, our next item on the agenda is the 2021-2022 proposed district budget.
So that's what we just went through in the budget hearing. So unless you have any questions, we just need you to go ahead and approve that. And then we will get it turned in tomorrow. Budgets are due on April 15th. That's why we had to, so if people wonder, that's why we had to move the board meeting up. Every March, we move the board meeting up a week because of spring break, and every April, we move it up a week because of the budget being due April 15th. So that's why we did that.
Okay. Any board members have any question on the proposed budget? I guess the only thing I'd add is I'm happy that our tax rate came in just a shade lower than it was last year. We'll need to remember next year too, that as property values have increased, I mean, our tax rate can go down and we'll bring in the same money. So that's just something that we need to keep in the back of our minds. So. Okay. Do we have a motion to approve the proposed budget for the upcoming year? So we have a motion. Do we have a second? Okay. Roll call.
Corey Robinson?
Yes.
Debbie Meyer?
Yes.
Colette Kunkel?
Yes.
Kim Ticky?
Yes.
John Northrop?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item is the 2021-2022 student registration fees. We've got a link in there to our proposed fees, so.
I'm gonna try and open that and then do a screen share. So people, if anyone's actually still watching, they can see these.
There's no changes.
Yeah, just so they know what they are.
Not comparison, what's the district KP? That doesn't matter, I just.
Is it Kinsley Pearson?
Oh, okay.
That's just my guess, but probably.
What'd you say?
Kinsley Pearson.
Could be, I don't know.
So here's our fees, and they haven't changed at all from last year, just so people are aware. And then.
Yeah, I have a question, because I looked at the street smarts and it was 360, so I wasn't sure how that worked, if we're only getting charging 330. At least that's what I found anyway, was 360.
Say it again?
All that comment I made in there when I looked at
Oh, yeah, we get a break. We get a.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't even realize that's what you were
Yeah, sorry.
asking. Sorry.
I heard that, I mean, there's been some talk about changing Iowa's law on some of that. Some of the places, they said that the third-party driver's education was like $1,000 a kid.
So they do charge more than that, and I finagled a deal out of them. I think this is going on our third year, right? That we've decided that Street Smarts is our company, and they don't come here. They generally do it in Newton and Colfax Mingo, but our kids can go there. And so it opens up, some more scheduling for them. But if there are students and they belong to the free and reduced or whatever, we still honor the free and reduced legalities of that. So if there's a free and reduced, we may be on the hook for some of those student fees. But because we struck a deal with them, I guess, and so they know that they're going to have, students coming from us, they agreed to the 330. Corey. Huh?
Need a finagle.
Yeah.
Anyone else have any questions on the fees? Seems like as most years we're kind of right in line with all of our
We haven't.
neighboring districts.
Yep,
so.
we left our fees the same for this upcoming year and this year too. So for 2 years in a row. But I think it's important, with the COVID, COVID-19 issues that are going on, not to raise fees. So.
Do we have a motion to approve the student fees for the upcoming school year as presented?
So,
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
second.
All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion's approved to approve the student registration fees as presented. Our next item is Board Policy Code number 403.4, which is the voluntary early retirement policy. We talked about it last month. So, Michael, do you want to add anything or?
No, it's just a reminder that, the reason we would have an early retirement is as an incentive to get some of our more expensive teachers to retire. So if we offer it every single year, then it's not really an incentive because they just assume it will be there every year. So per the recommendation of our attorney, we should offer it.
And auditors.
What?
And auditors.
Oh, and auditors. Yeah, sorry. And auditors, that we should offer it on an as needed basis. So our recommendation is that we would look at the budget and we would see how many we could afford, and then we would let staff know the year before. So like I could send out an email now that we've approved our budget in the next few weeks and say, we're gonna offer early retirement next year. That'd give them almost a full year to consider whether they want to retire or not. And then that would let us know, then they need to let us know by January, I believe, if they're going to retire. So then we know how much money to plan for it that we'll have to spend out in our funding for early retirement. So we just want to make sure that they don't assume that we're going to have it every single year. So we just need the board policy to reflect that.
So this will be the first reading.
And the way we talked last month is that we'd still keep it in place for the upcoming year.
Yes, so.
And then it would
Yep.
take effect after that it would be
Yep.
up to the discretion of the.
Yep, and so we'll decide every year, like Mike Lynn just said, we'll decide every year at the time of the budget approval, which is in April, for the following year, right? So you can decide right now if you were going to offer it for next year, and we've decided that we will. I mean, we're not going to take it away without them without anyone knowing. So, so we will offer it, and then it would be our suggestion that at the beginning of each school year that Dr. Clapper will send out an email reminding, licensed employees that it is being offered for this year, and, to keep that on your front burner if you're going to decide or not decide. I will tell you that as part of that, in the past, generally, board only approved one at a time going, or if they had the funding, they could choose to do more than one if they had the funding. But for the most part, it was only one at a time. With the new policy, board has the ability to approve as many as they want, or as much as funding allows. And so when we, it would be our recommendation at the time of the budget to tell you, we can afford to let this many go, or to pay for voluntary early retirement for this many people. And so through how you decide is if you have more than one wanting to take the early retirement, you would take their seniority or their years of service first. So let's say we had 4 people who wanted to retire, but we only had the funds for 3 people. The first thing we're going to look at is the seniority, and we'll do it for who's been here the longest. We'll get, first dibs. Let's say 2 of those people, or all 3 of those people for that matter, have been here all the same amount of time. Then we're going to look at who provided us with the application first to say, I would like to volunteer to early retire. So we'll take those, the seniority, and then whoever got us the application first.
Any questions?
So do we need to make a motion on that?
Just first reading.
This is the first
Yep.
reading tonight,
Yep.
so next meeting would
Yep.
be. Okay. Anybody have any questions? I know we talked about it last month too. So. Okay, our next item is the master contract, and I think we need to also, Julie talked to me earlier about down in K personnel coaching salaries, because those are also going to be affected by the master
In the
contract.
master contract.
So we need to probably look at them right now
Mhm.
before we approve the master contract. So under personnel.
Yep.
The coaching salaries, we can open that link.
Yep. And I'm happy to walk you through all that information because there's a lot going on there.
Where are you at?
Go down to
Go down to
personnel.
K, which is
Scoot down
personnel,
if you.
Is the coaching schedule?
and then the coaching salaries link.
Everybody get there?
Okay, so this is already in the master contract, what it looks like here. So all of the black up above where it talks about the positions, this whole layout is already in the master contract. And the coaching salaries are all based on the salary base, right? Well, the BEA and the board have already agreed to an increase on the base. And so this includes that increase on the base. Anything that goes after that is really supplemental pay, and it's not really a negotiable item, but we do include it in the master contract. So that's why we're doing the coaching salaries right now, because it may change what the master contract looks like is all. So what we did was I put out to my business managers to provide me with their coaching salaries, schedules, and their categories. So we have what I call 6 categories, or basically where the positions fall. And, and each category has a different index from the base salary, okay, according to activity in that position. So, basketball or football is a way more involved season or something like that than, say, a junior high student council sponsor, okay? Or do you see what I'm saying? So that's how we rated those. We did renorm those. And so you'll see the ones that are the black where it's crossed out is where we took it out of that category. But then you'll see where the red is, that's where we added it, okay? So for example, you'll see where junior high cheerleading was struck in the first category, but we moved it down to the second category. So we haven't eliminated any, we just renormed them. And it's according to the emails that I put out to the business managers and all of the information that I collected back from them. So we wanted to be comparable with other districts. We also haven't raised salaries for coaches in at least 13 years since I've been here, other than when the base changes. So when the base salary changes, whatever that changes, it goes up that amount, you know, but we haven't actually addressed like any additional increases in coaches for quite some time. So we really wanted to look at what other schools were paying and how we compared to them, okay? So if you now go down to the numbers across the bottom, if you see the black numbers, see where it says 14%, 12% going across from the left to the right, 14, 12, 9, 6, 6, 5. The 7 schools, the first 7 schools that came into me, and they were across the board schools, you know, where they, you know, 4A, 3A, 2A, I mean, they were across the board. So I felt like we were getting a good sampling of what we were looking for. And so those were the averages of those 7 schools that we brought of what they're paying in those categories. They aren't exact. There may be a little bit of crossover, you know, like say, oh, maybe that junior high cheerleading is really in a category of 1, but we have it in 2, or, I mean, it's not exact. It's not an exact science, but the averages. So for example, the averages for band, FFA, vocal, head high school coaches for football, volleyball, basketball, those were falling in at 14% average of the base of those other schools. And we were in the red is where we are currently paying at 0.093 or 9.3%, 8.6%, 6.9%, 4.5%.
Can you say what other schools were paying?
They're above in the black.
In the above. So they were paying the 14%.
Like we were paying 9%, they were paying 14%.
Of their base salaries.
Got it.
Okay. And we were paying 9.3%. So you could see that we were pretty lacking, you know, anywhere from 5% to down to 2%, you know, difference. So 2 to 5% difference. So what I did was, okay, if I brought everyone up in those categories up to what the average was of those other schools, what would that cost us? Okay, and so the highlighted is where we have people in those positions, okay? And we may have more than one person in those positions, you know, so in fact we do. I mean, we have actually 40 coaches. Actually, we have 52 coaches total that are on this board. 40 of them are in their first 4 years of coaching. Okay. And so, and only 12 have gone on past 7 years or longer. And so that tells us that we're having a lot of movement and fluidity, that word. Like in the first few years of coaching, because maybe we're not paying enough. Okay, so what I did was, okay, if we paid everyone what the average of those other 7 districts are, what is that going to cost us? Well, it was going to cost us about $50,000 or $48,113 if you look down below. Well, we couldn't afford that because we don't have that much new money that isn't allocated yet, right? So I thought, okay, well, what if I went halfway in between that? And that's what I did. So then I was able to come up with, and that's where you see the green up above. So instead of 9.3, we would propose that you go up to 11.65%. So it's basically halfway in between the average and what we were paying. And that would cost us just over $24,000. Currently, in those positions that we have filled, you know, it's hard to tell, you know, where we're going to end up later on down the road because of the movement.
And this is something that we could look at again next year too.
Oh, you can, yeah. I mean, it all depends on if we have money, you know, and so this is a great year. We have money, you know, and so, and like I said, we haven't addressed coaching salaries or renormed those positions, at least for 13 years that I've been here, maybe longer. And other than whatever is put onto the base, you know, so like whenever teachers negotiate and we add $900 onto the base, then obviously that amount goes up for the coaches as well because it's tied to the base.
Right.
So, but anything above that, we haven't addressed at all.
Yeah.
So that was a lot of information. Do you have any questions or?
Like the idea of at least getting halfway.
Yeah.
Not trying to bite it off.
Yeah, and so, and we can look at this every year and generally we do, but generally we don't have any extra money. So you may not realize that we're looking at it, but we are, you know, we may just not have the money to put it here or whatever. It just so happens that we do this year. But if we ever do, we can look at it again. We can look at it as often as we want, or we can renorm the positions again. What I will tell you, I didn't tell you before. So what does that look like? How do we do that with people in the existing positions, right? Because we did move a couple of those positions down. Well, we're not going to take money away from them, right? So we're going to grandfather it in. So, and what we mean by that is anyone who has a current coaching position or extracurricular position, they stay where they are, you know, so they'll get a great bump. But if they were to decide that they don't want that position anymore and resign from it, then when we hire somebody new, they'll come in under the new schedule. Okay. Now, we did also talk about, okay, let's say Corey is coaching high school cheer. And so, and so let's say he decides, I don't want to do it next year. Okay. So he takes a year off or takes a couple of years off. But then he decides, well, I want to get back into it. I'm not as busy, so we'll do it again. He comes back in under the new schedule, not on the old schedule.
Sure.
So we just gradually grandfather.
I don't even know if high school cheer is one that moved, but if it was, if that's a less paying job, he would get the less paying.
But would that start back at 1 then also?
No, you don't start back at 1 because you still have that experience. Okay. So you really do. And that's the way it is already, is that, or let's say you've coached high school cheer for 3 years, but now you're going to high school student council. You aren't going to start at 1 on high school student council. You'll start on 4 because it'll be the beginning of your 4th year. Okay. It's always, well, it hasn't always been that way, but it changed back when Mr. Seals was still here. So.
So to circle back to the top, we
So
can't, if you decide that you want to approve the coaching salary increase, then we'd approve that bottom master contract.
The one with the 2.
With the added salaries to it. That's why there's the 2 options for approved master contract.
Oh, so back up.
At G.
Got it.
Yeah, because it's included in that master contract, even though it's not a required negotiable item, it's still included in that master contract.
Sure. But that doesn't change anything that the teachers have negotiated. So if there's any teachers on here, we're not changing anything.
Agreed to.
Still the $900 we agreed to on the base and all that. It just depends on which salary schedule we slide into the contract.
Yep.
Got it. I see that salary schedule goes on like page 7.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So if you agree to this new one, I'll slip out the old and put in the new. Yeah, and that's what the number 2 is on there.
Gotcha.
Okay. I just want you guys to be able to look at it.
Julie, can I say one thing?
Sure, go
This may
ahead.
turn into 2 or 3, but I'll try to be quick. I promise.
Yeah.
I know there may be some coaches on here that will look at this. This is my first year of being on the other side of this as an athletic director trying to hire. So first of all, blanket that there's no one we hire that is more important to our kids for doing it for less than money than anybody on the schedule. Not sport, sports, music, band, speech. You know the value of those people, and we can't pay them what they're worth, so we understand that. Yep. 2 is I want to say is we worked pretty hard at where these are at, because I don't want to diminish if someone says, I know I'm grandfathered in, but man, I went the other way too. So we really looked at and evaluated time spent at that activity hours spent at that activity, what's done in school versus out of school, the responsibility, the number of students. I mean, there wasn't a definite rubric, but we looked at all of that. And we're extremely low. One other thing, and Julie knows this, and this, I mean, there's only so much money, so it doesn't matter how you get to it. We're one of the few schools that don't have our TSS money in the base. Teachers negotiated that out, where all these other schools have a higher base because their TSS money's in the base. So it really, we're even behind the apples to apples in that.
That's
Does
true.
that make
That's
sense?
Do you see?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, Collins Maxwell just switched over this year. They were out, and I can share other times what that headache was going back into putting it in. So but it's just, I want to make sure we're aware of that. When I love that we're a percentage of the base, because Julie, for the longest time, we were just indexed
It was just a flat
$800,
fee.
$825. So at least now we know as teachers earn off the base, the coaches will get a very small percentage, but they will move right along with it. So that's a really good move. I just wanted to say those things, and I do anytime we can help. It's not just coaches, I mean, it's sponsors, and you'll see, I mean, there's academic coaches,
competitions.
there's
Yep.
student council advisors, there's prom sponsors, all that's in there. And the best is we have the one with academics, so if somebody begins a club that we think is outside of time and worth it, we can always put them, just decide that's a worthwhile club, and we'll pay you the academic lane it is, so that's it.
Board have any other questions?
No, I'm glad we can do this for them. They deserve it.
And it's, I mean, I'm kind of agree that they need it, but make up part of the difference now, because we need to remember that's 24,000 every year.
Yep.
Going
Yep.
forward, so it's not just like a one-time expenditure.
Yes.
Yeah. All right, so we've covered that, so now we can go back up to
So
item G, our
maybe,
master contract.
yeah, why don't you agree to the index increase in the coaching salaries?
Okay, do we have,
Mhm.
somebody like to make that motion?
I'll make the motion.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, do you need to roll call that,
No,
Julie, or?
no.
Okay, all in favor, aye? Pose same sign. Okay, agree
Now-
to the update in the
Yep.
indexing for the coaching salaries. Now back to the master contract.
And you're going to approve the one that says
This is
master
the
contract
second
2.
item.
Yep.
Okay,
And you may want to just for public,
open that up here.
yeah, and talk about what we agreed to with the BEA
Get this
specifics.
open, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, Michael, do you want to?
Sure. So the BEA asked for a $900 increase on the base, and the board agreed to that without any negotiation. We just agreed that that was a fair deal. And then we also asked to, I should find the actual language. Do we have it in the one about the personal days? What they had asked for was, as it is, they could
Yeah,
carry
please
over
do.
3 personal days. Up to 3. They get 3 every year, and they could carry over a couple. I should get the actual language so I don't mess
Yep,
this
so
up.
if you click on that master contract 2,
Yep, page 9 is what she said.
It says personnel there. Is that where you're looking?
it's italicized. So if you go down and find italicized. Went too far. Right here.
Oh, okay, I found it.
So
Okay.
number C.
So, this is under personal days. Due to the difficulty in hiring substitutes as an incentive not to use one or both personal days, employees are provided the following options. They can get a reimbursement of $50 for one unused personal day, a reimbursement of $70 for the second unused personal day, a rollover for one or both unused personal days to be used as the employee wishes. The exercise of this option may not allow for the accumulation of personal days to exceed 3 days, family illness leave to exceed 10 days, or sick leave to exceed 100 days. And then this is the new part.
So that was existing
That was
before. That,
existing.
there's no change in that.
there. Here's the new part. Except in the matter of a life event and at the discretion of the superintendent. So what that means is if a teacher wants to save up a couple personal days, for example, let's say they're gonna get married next year, and they want to save those 2 personal days and roll them over for a couple years, they can save more personal time and then use them in the event of a life event. They just have to come visit with the superintendent and I can approve it, or whoever is in this seat can approve it. So that was just something that we did. They didn't ask for that, but we had some teachers come to us and ask about it. So it's not hurting us and it's a benefit to them and we were glad to do it. So we just added that and then the BEA agreed to it.
Okay. So I think at this point, we just need a motion to approve the master contract. That does have the coach's salary increase that's included in it. So we have someone who'd like to make that motion. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion's approved to approve the master contract for the upcoming year. Okay, our next item on the agenda is participation in the IASB Safety Group Insurance Program. That's something we do every year, and seems like we receive monetary benefit for it in excess of what it costs us. So
we do, and we have, at least in the dividend form in the past. They have informed us that we didn't get one this year, and we're probably not going to be getting one for at least another year. And we should look for increases in insurance due to the duration.
Okay.
I still think it'll, because we
Be a
also belong,
benefit
yeah,
for us over the long term.
yeah.
Right. Okay. Okay, do we have a motion to approve continued participation in the IASB Safety Group Insurance Program?
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? All in favor, aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion's approved to continue participation in the IASB Safety Group Insurance Program. Next item on the agenda is the Iowa School Finance Information Services. It's an annual membership. So Michael or Julie, would you like to talk to that?
We use this, ISFIS helps us with our budgeting. I often send you guys little blurbs from them. They have a weekly webinar. They just give updates from the Capitol. They have a budget forecasting program, a tool that we can use. It's well worth the money. And they're always email away. We have a question. I email them frequently, questions. So.
Very good information source.
They are, and they're quick to return our.
Yeah. It looks like the cost is about $480. So, okay, do we have a motion to approve continued participation in the ISFIS membership? A motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor, aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion's approved to continue membership in the ISFIS. Okay, our next item is to approve seniors for graduation. We've got a link we can open there to view the seniors.
How many I didn't count them.
28. I think the next couple of years, there are smaller classes going out. Is that true, Rob?
Yeah, that will bode well for us, probably in the new monies and increasing enrollment. Everybody on that list, we will have one that will not be walking or getting a diploma at this point in time. One who really has excelled with the Apex and was credit deficient, and we were having all kinds of problems. And the minute he chose to go online because of the pandemic, boom, and will graduate choosing not to walk. But yeah, that's a success story. Small class, really good class.
Good. Okay, do we have a motion to approve the seniors for graduation pending successful fulfillment of all graduation requirements? Do we have a motion? Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor, aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion's approved to approve the seniors for graduation pending successful fulfillment of all graduation requirements. The next item on the agenda is personnel. Michael, do you want to discuss those? Looks like we have a couple contracts to offer.
Yep, so we need to offer a contract to Stephen Folkert as head middle school boys track, Cole Wilson, co-head middle school girls softball, Cole Damon, head middle school boys baseball, and then, do you want to approve the contracts first and then?
Yep.
We'll do that and then
We'll
we'll do
do
the next
that,
one.
yep. Okay, do we have a motion to approve the contracts for the 3 people that were just mentioned for coaching positions? We have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor, aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion's approved to offer the contracts for the coaching positions.
All right, and then the next one is a resignation of Stacia Van Sice as the full-time cook in the lunchroom.
Do we have a motion to accept the resignation of Stacia Van Sice as full-time cook? We have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor, aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion's approved to accept the resignation of Stacia Van Sice.
We want to move the closed session to the bottom so that we can get through everything else and then people
Yeah,
won't have to
we'll do
wait
that.
on. We'll just move that down.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay. No open enrollments
No.
tonight. Facilities, grounds, and transportation.
So this is just, if you click on the link, there's a list of our summer projects. And that just kind of gives you, we talked about this at our board workshop, but this is just the final list. We're still waiting on a couple of prices. Pam was out today, but we just still need to get the price up for the pole lights on the bus drive. That's where the wire was broken in between the pole and the door where they have to dig up some cement. So she's just waiting on a quote for that. And then she's still waiting. I think she's talked to some construction people, but hasn't got an official quote back for the press box repairs.
Okay.
What's top dresser mean?
That's a thing that kind of, Rob, help me.
It's where you,
drives
they
it.
go over the grass and they're putting their top dressing, so that means they're putting in sand, dirt, whatever from the top to level or to seed from the top for, so there's top dressing it is what it means.
Thank you.
And they were able to, I think they typically rent one for,
They bought a top dresser.
yeah, they typically rent one and it costs that much or more to rent it. And they were able to find one, I believe, from Madrid, is that right? And so they had one for sale. So rather than just spending the money to rent it and then have to re-spend it every year, they just went ahead and bought this one. And so now we have it. So it was an initial investment, but it's now it's ours. So and then our grounds guys, Ed and Don, they know how to do it, so they can take it from there.
You all do need to decide on which tuck pointing
yes.
you're going to go with. So if you click on that, on project 7, if you click on that link there, it's I don't know, 52 pages long. 48. And so I would, so you can open that, that's all fine and dandy, and they have pictures in there. According to the options that they're talking about. And so I tried to narrow it down for you. If you go back to the project list back there. So area 1, option 1 is to caulk all at the central office, the music room, and the library. So from all the way over past the library, right into the corner of the library. That's to caulk everything. That's even if it doesn't need it, they'll pull it out and they'll, caulk it all. That's $4,960. Area 1, option 2, they'll caulk only the broken in that area, broken caulk, and that's $1,300. Area 2 is they'll fix the bricks and caulk only what they fixed. at the West Commons and the Wellness Center. And area, and then area 2, option 1. So there's really 3 options here for this area 2. They can caulk all at the West Commons, the Wellness, and the hallway. So the hallway is from where they stopped at the library. It's that hallway, like, so the little, like behind the flagpole.
Yeah.
So it's that hallway, the West Commons, and then around the Wellness Center, but not the gym. Okay. And in my opinion, we should fix the bricks. I mean, because you see the pictures in there. I mean, they're pretty noticeable. And then, and so if you're just fixing the bricks and only caulking that's $1,500. If you're going to caulk all at the West Commons, the Wellness, and the hallway, but you're not fixing the bricks or anything, but you are pulling out all the caulking, so not just the broken, but just all of it, then that's where you're $5,360. And then the last option is if you're only caulking the broken at the West Commons, the Wellness, and the hallway, you're not fixing bricks or anything, that's where it's the $1,000. In my opinion, I would fix the bricks and caulk where they fix that, and only in all of those areas only fix what's broken of the caulk.
That'd be 1552 was to fix the bricks. And
Yep, and to caulk only that, so it'd be
Right.
1552, and then I would suggest
The
the 1300, and then I think that's it. Is it? I thought maybe there was another one.
There's only 6 bricks here. Is that it?
Yeah, there wasn't too many, at least what they showed in the pictures.
Yeah, there weren't. But
And I don't know if they were
several.
showing all of the, did it say 6?
It
Did it
says
say a number?
6,
Okay,
yeah, it says
okay,
6.
yeah. Oh, and then yeah, so 1300, and then fix the bricks and the caulk at the 1552. Yep, I guess that's it.
Any discussion on that from the board?
So we're agreeing to those 2 items then for the works program.
That's my suggestion, but
that's what we were
that's
suggesting.
your call.
That makes sense to me.
And this is the first time this has had to be done, is that correct? Since they did it, because I was wondering, is it like an every year thing, or it's really not? It's like it's a maintenance every once in a while.
Yep.
We did some.
We
Like,
did
over the-
some on the front.
Yeah,
Yep.
there was some stuff breaking.
So this is a 3 to 4 year project. And so we did some last year. We did
they kind of prioritized
West
it for
Commons, like right below, remember the
There was some
like right
crumbling
below,
and-
yep, right below the windows and all that. They fixed all that. And so they went and just sort of looked at all of it and basically, put it all in a 3 to 4 year project. And so we're in year 2 of it.
Okay. Somebody want to make a motion to approve the work for work area 1, option 2 on the 1996 edition for 1,300. And then on work area 2, the 2006 edition, which would be replacing the bricks that are missing and caulking what is bad there for $1,552. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor, aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion's approved.
So that'll,
So you want to relay that to Pam?
Yep.
So she can.
yep, and that'll adjust that expenditure amount. I'll adjust that later on tomorrow or whatever.
Okay.
Was that including everything?
That was including everything.
Okay, so that'll
And
be-
it also includes that service agreement with Johnson Controls, of which we haven't signed yet. So that's probably gonna
Yeah,
be
John and I are
something
gonna
later on
meet
down the
with
road
Down
with
the
that
road, a
too.
month
Yep.
or two, yeah.
I just needed to put it in there so I remember everything. I think that's all you need to do for now. You can approve, yeah, you can approve all the other stuff if you want, but I would not approve, obviously, that service agreement.
So the track, we've got
Yeah, are we just waiting on the
firm
football,
bid on that.
Yep,
the football press box? That's all
and
we're
the
waiting on?
pole lights. The
Oh,
light-
oh,
this-
yeah.
Those two things.
Okay, yeah. So you're welcome to approve the rest of it if you want, or you can wait till next month when we have everything else, the other two items.
Is there anything that's time sensitive, like
Nope.
that needs to
No,
get going?
Was this the only track quote we got?
I can't speak to that. Did we just get one?
There's just.
I think
I
there's
think
only
there's only
one
one
people
company.
that do
There's
it.
only two really companies that do it. This is one Neil worked with way back in the day, and we just worked with them all the way through. They've done the top polyurethane.
Yeah.
So.
So we have a relationship with them.
When does that start again? You've probably told us.
June,
And it's how long does it take them to do that?
Not
A week?
Not long. Do you remember?
That's very.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I was thinking about the other dealer thing that I just talked to me today, that I gotta get some help on that retaining wall, because I'm not confident enough before we put something in the ground, so I'm gonna need to talk to you about it.
Yeah,
I just got this
that's the
tonight.
insurance. That's a different pot.
Just to get the
Yeah.
cement laid for the bleachers, we gotta build a retaining wall, but about a week, give or take. But it'll be pretty tore up for that week.
Yeah, but
Okay, so the rest of the summer projects, we can.
Yeah, those two items.
We'll address next.
Yep,
meeting.
that's perfectly fine. And those tuck pointing items, Pam can get them called because you just approved those, so she can get them on the horn, and so everything else can wait till next month. Thank you.
Okay, anything else on facilities, grounds? I see Jeff Shepley's getting the shed,
Yeah.
if the wind would ever, I feel sorry for him out there on.
You can tell me
Trust
the
the cross or the whatever.
Okay. Superintendent's report.
I just want to remind everybody that we have the joint work session next Wednesday, and it is at 7. I was able to get it switched, I'm sorry. Oops. So 7 o'clock, and worked with Jennifer and Peg and Julie, and we got the agenda put together. There's kind of just the main things they always go over, but a few things that I wanted to make sure we address, which is one of the things one of the moms brought up on here, the traffic flow around school before and after. And then we want to talk about a food pantry. They had asked if we could find a place here in the school for the food pantry, and I said, no, not because I don't support it, but because we don't have the space for it. But we talked about how could we help brainstorm ideas of other places in the community, maybe that it could go. We want to talk about the complex project, like the field house project. The police presence, maybe at the beginning and end of school day. Chief Hicks will be at the meeting, so we can just discuss some of those things. I had the field house posters or designs down by the cafeteria today for the National Honor Society, so as those parents came in and out, they could see them. We had them at the booster event Saturday night, so folks could see them. So now we just, it's just a matter of getting our committee back together, our committee, and then starting to talk about community-wide fundraising. But we want to talk about that at our joint work session, because if Baxter Rec and Adult Rec and all these other entities want to be a part of it, we need to get those players involved in that community effort to raise the funds, because you know our district funds are tied up in the new building. So and for a while we can't use any school money, so it's going to have to be fundraised. So but the community was very supportive Saturday night. I don't know if Rob shared this with everybody, but they raised over $30,000 Saturday night to support our booster club. The community, or the people that were there, were really supportive. It was great to see. It's just great to see so many people supporting our kids and our teams. So, and then my other just B is Fun Days and Bricks. This was on here from last year, and I just saved it. John, are the bricks still at your house?
Yes.
And do we still want to plan on selling those, or having some kind of a fundraising event with those at Fun Days? And if so, I can talk about that, at our joint session with the city council as well. Because I'm sure the fund days, Jennifer's on the fund days committee, and so we can talk through how that's going to be. But I just wanted to keep that on our radar. I'd kind of forgotten all about it, but looking back on the notes from last year, I was like, oh,
We had
gosh.
plans last year.
Yeah, we had plans to get rid of those bricks last year at fund days, and then that got tabled. So otherwise, yeah, things are going really well. District leadership team, I meet tomorrow with some AEA folks to help get the agenda planned that we're going to take then to our CIA, our curriculum instruction and assessment team. We're going to meet next week then to kind of look through that agenda, because our first meeting is June 7th, I believe, and it's an all-day meeting, but we're going to talk through like how that's going to look and what we're going to do and how we're going to start moving that team forward. So really excited about that. I've been doing some great work with our special ed department, a lot of really great learning, really digging into best practices, and what Rob was saying, even with the IRSS for the A reading scores, just getting the special ed teachers and the gen ed teachers really partnering to help move all our kiddos, not just our gen ed kids, but our special ed kids as well. So we're doing some great work there, and there's a lot of heavy lifting that's happening, but it's happening. Teachers are digging in and getting busy with it. And so we're really excited about the work. Jason and Rob and I and Josh, Zach, Dennis, we've all been teaming with the special ed department to just learn more and to learn more and do better. So we're really excited about that as well. So otherwise, that's about all I got, I guess.
Okay. Anybody else have anything?
I had reached out to Rob and Michaelin about a month ago. Seniors, quite a handful had approached me about doing another senior parade like they had last year. Wondering if they could do that, wanting to not put another thing on Rob's plate, but got Rob and Michaelin's blessing to facilitate that. And I reached out to Jennifer. I've got a map of the route, and she was going to take it to her city council meeting on the next week, the 21st. She didn't see that it would be a problem. I also asked if it was possible to get an escort for that. She was going to reach out to the different departments, and she didn't think that would be an issue either if they were available. Just a really small route from the complex down Main Street and over, and they'd go past the school and then back to the complex, hoping that they could wear their caps and gowns, just much like last year. I'd send out some social media content just to let everybody know, and hopefully people can come out and support the seniors, because I think it was a really nice event last year, and maybe it's something we can continue for years on. It's super easy. And
do you have a date set?
May 12th. It's a Wednesday. I was thinking lining up at the complex between 6:30 and 6:45, and the parade would be at 7. Again, it has to be approved by city council, but that was my thought, and that wouldn't interfere with any practices. I'd let the coaches all know and just to have a heads up. But Wednesday nights, I think you're done fairly early anyway.
I think we're probably done.
They what's that?
I imagine we're about done with track by that time.
Yeah, that's probably about the
Okay, and soccer I know is still going, but
Might be state, that could be an issue if it's the week of state.
it'll give the kids time to go home and get their vehicles that they want and change. So anyway, I just wanted to let you guys know.
Thank you. Anybody else have anything? Okay. At this time, we can go into closed session as allowed by Chapter 21 in the Iowa Code to discuss classified and administrative salaries.
Do we need to move that, or?
Yeah, do we have a motion to go into closed session?
So moved.
Do we have a second? Second. All in favor, aye? Opposed, same sign. We'll now go into closed session.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and end this meeting because closed sessions are obviously closed. So I appreciate everyone zooming in, and we hope to see you again next month. Take care.